right. Hi, guys. Welcome to WitchLab Wednesday Live. I'm your host, Tiffany Boggins. Today is June 23rd, 2021. My guest tonight, I've been waiting for this for a long time. I'm super excited. I know you guys are too. Judika Illes. Judika Illes here on WitchLab Wednesday Live. Yes. We're going to have her out a few minutes. For those of you not in the know, she is the one who wrote the spell book, right? So she's going to talk about her new book that's coming out. It's going to be great. We're going to get there in just a minute. A couple things, new stuff. Let's talk about stuff. First thing, it's my brother's birthday. Happy birthday, Steve. I don't know if you're going to watch tonight's show, but happy birthday. Update on mask requirements, just to let you guys know again, as of July 1st, masks are optional at WitchLab, and we are going to unlock the doors also, so we won't be, keeping track of who's coming in, which is going to be weird, right? Because we've had the doors locked for a year now, and I kind of like it. It's like you get buzzed in kind of a thing, and then we kind of know who's in the shop, and also we get to greet each one of you personally, which I love, right? Like here's this stuff, here's this stuff. Let me know if you need anything. You looking for anything? That kind of stuff. So I'm sorry if you don't get greeted when you come in, but. And again, masks are optional. Wear a mask if you want to. It's comfortable. I think some of my staff is going to continue to wear masks. I'm going to take that on a daily basis. I don't know yet. Yeah. Oh, let's share this, right? So like right now, go to, well, you guys are already watching it on WitchLab, but I'm going to go to WitchLab and I'm going to share it so that so other people can see it. Because right, we talked about last week how important it is to promote, right? Promote. Shameless promotion. It's not just about me, it's about the people that I am giving the platform to, right? It's about all the wonderful authors and weird people who come on my show that I love so much. It's about promoting them. So take a minute, share this on your Facebook. I just did it. I'm sure I looked really weird because I have to go to another thing and I can't see myself. Which also, I'm really looking forward to doing in-person interviews because I want to just look at the person I'm talking to and not me. I'm looking forward to that. I want to do them like on the stage. That'd be fun. You guys can come watch live audience interviews. So fun. What else is new? Let's see. Upcoming stuff, monthly meetings this month. Circle of the Dark Mother is doing theirs on the first Sunday of every month, so that falls on July 4th, and they're doing a Litha ritual, so like a live Zoom ritual, and their rituals are gorgeous. If you've never heard Mark Williams' intone, you should check it out. And that event's on the Facebook page, event page on Facebook. Sorry, I feel a little out of it. Maybe it's starstruck. Did I mention Judika Illes is here? Trying to bring it together. WitchLab Book Club, Cultum Librorum. The June meeting happens at the last Sunday of this month, and it's the Santa Muerte book, Santa Muerte, The History, Rituals, and Magic of Our Lady of the Holy Death by Tracy Rowan. And you can try to catch up. You still got like 7 days left. Or you can figure out what this month's book is, which I should go over to comments and see if, there's Jean. Okay, so Jean, what's the book for July? So people can get a jump. Jean is the person who runs it, this wonderful woman right here. So let us know what the book is for next month. You haven't decided yet? All right, well, that's fair. I guess I still have a month to read it. All right, so let's say some highs. Hi, Bobo. Hi, Hearth. Donna. I love Donna. Connie. Hey, Connie. Hey, you guys don't really talk. I know you watch, but you never say anything usually. So it's nice to hear from you. Christy and Jean. All right, so that's who we got so far. Right, back to announcements and things. Let's get through this boring stuff so we can get to the good part. Okay, not that it's boring. The stuff is very fun. It's just listening to me having to list it off for you. Okay, so I'm gonna make it really exciting. July 14th, I have. Okay, so I'm gonna get confirmation on both of these names because I want to make sure I pronounce them right. So I'm just gonna give it a shot. I have Elohim Lifar, which I think is close. No, Judika's saying no, that's not even close. So I'm going to find out how to say that individual's name. But they wrote a book, Manifesting Magic, and they're going to be on July 14th. July 28th, we have, I want to kill this one too. I know it. He wrote Practical Alchemy. His first name's Brian. Second name, Cot Noir. Yes, I got that one right. Judika's saying yes to me. I can see her. You guys can't see her yet? Okay. Anyway, the next one I got, August 4th, Courtney Weber, Hecate. That's going to be beautiful. I'm very excited. We have a new class on the books. Sunday, August 22nd, Secrets of Spellcasting, a workshop with Judika Illes. For tickets, you can go, oh, look what I'm going to do. It's called technology, folks, and I'm finally figuring it out. So I'm going to copy this. You can actually go straight to listing for tickets to this class. All right, back to my notes. So it's $40 for the class unless you buy your tickets before August, and then it's only $35. First weekend in October, Najah Lightfoot will be here. That's right, in person. Oh yeah, she's amazing, and I love her very much. And she's one of my favorite people to talk to. So, but we don't know what class she's teaching yet. So we're going to figure that out, but it's going to be the first week in October. Second weekend in October, we've got Kobe Michael, who will be here to talk about Poison Path Herbal, which is their book that is coming out, and the class they're going to be teaching on October 6th in person at WitchLab. Hell yeah. Okay. All right. It's time. You guys ready? You ready? We're going to get our guest out here. This woman is a legend in the magical community. I'm going to tell you, it's funny because I wrote this. I wrote my intro before I even came home from work. And then when I got home, I realized that Abigail, who does our Facebook posts and things, she used the same word. She called this woman legendary also. So it's not just me. We all know this. Author of The Big Book of Practical Spells, Wiser Book of Fantastic and Forgotten, the Encyclopedia of Mystics, Saints, and Sages. Wiser, I'm totally reading these because there's a lot of them. The Wiser Book of Fantastic and Forgotten, the wait, I'm already up there. Wiser Field Guide to the Paranormal, the Wiser Field Guide to Witches, the Encyclopedia of Spirits, the Encyclopedia of 5,000 Spells, Magic When You Need It, 150 Spells You Can't Live Without, one of my favorite books. I love that book very much. I love them all, but like that one was good. The Elemental Encyclopedia of Witchcraft, and then her newest, which is coming out in August, Daily Magic, Spells and Rituals for Making the Whole Year Magical. She continues to educate and inspire. I am truly honored to have her on this show. Friends, allow me to introduce Judika Illes.
Hi.
Hello.
That's too much.
Welcome. You what?
Thank you. I don't know. That's a lot.
I'm sorry, but I'm a huge fan. I was very happy that you agreed to come on my show. And so I've been doing lots of homework. You have a Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
I actually
didn't write it. I didn't write it.
I dove deep, and there's only one other person who's ever been on my show that I could find, and I could be wrong, but Lon Milo Duquette was the only other one who has a Wikipedia page.
Yeah, I know who wrote it. I do know who wrote it. But
I just think it's cool you have one. Like, I think that's so awesome. You look up, it's like a cult writers is a thing, and there's not that many.
No, there should be more.
There should be more, but it's really cool. Like that's how important you are. People are like, she needs to be on Wikipedia, and it's not even Wikipedia, it's Wikipedia, like the real gig. All right, some more people. Hello, Michelle. Hey, Betty Ann, I didn't see you snuck in here. Danielle, nice. Kim, let's make sure I didn't miss anybody. Okay, so again, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for all the kind words.
You know, this book has been, this is my copy. It's been chewed on by many.
That's an original edition.
Right? Yes. and I love it, and it's filled with dried flowers and notes and
Oh, that makes
things.
me so happy.
It is well worn. It's the kind of thing that when I'm home, I wish I had it at the office. When I'm at the office, I wish I had it at home. So I actually have another copy there too.
I know that's the original edition because there are numerous editions, because when that was first published, and the original edition was by HarperCollins, after a week, Amazon.com refused to ship it for free because it's over 5 pounds.
The
And
word that.
so they had to, that was a problem. People expect free shipping. So then they had to go back to the drawing board. And that's, if you're buying it sight unseen, you have to be careful because you don't know which edition you're getting. The
Oh.
one that was published by Harper One, the US edition with the purple flowers, there's
Hmm.
only one US edition. But there's about 3 or 4 different ones with slightly different, the picture is the same, but like they were trying to get it light enough to ship. So that
Oh,
that,
is
that
that
was the
why
thing.
that's why there's a slimmer version,
Right.
right? I've seen those. Yeah, because it's like
Right.
half the book. I'll get that. Half the book, right? It's like
I
interesting.
it's the whole book. It's the pages are the same, the pagination. Like page 3 in one book is the same as page 3 in the other. There is
So,
an abridged version that they sold in the UK, but they didn't really sell in the US. But uh, people tell me they like it, but I didn't have anything to do with that. That was just the publisher sort of repurposed it. Um, but yeah, no, I don't really understand. They were, for anybody who's seen the original, I not because it's mine, but as a book, I like beautiful books, and it's heavy. It's got that heavy cover, and it's got a
it's
dust
very
jacket.
grimoire, like
It's
it's
very grimoire. They
yeah,
did a beautiful job.
yeah.
But then I mean, it was, even for me when I would ship out, because it's so heavy. It's not the same. What do you call it? When you go to the post office and there's the media rate.
Oh,
Every
medium
state
mail,
has a,
yeah.
yeah, it's not a standard media rate. So even,
So,
it's a crazy book.
but so that's crazy because okay, so like when you like if I were to ship like 5 books, I could use media rate because it's all books. So it's
You
interesting that they
can't get
wouldn't
more
use
than
it because it
6 of
was
those books
one.
in a book crate. I mean, if you order books wholesale, usually you get a box with, I don't know, 20 books. You only get 6 of them. So, I mean, they had to, I
It's
understand
so
they had
heavy.
to get it lighter. They had to get it lighter because it became prohibitive, and it's not intended as a prohibitively expensive book. It's a book for people to use and, stick their flowers in and do all those things. So it's a lot. It's not an inexpensive book, but for what you're getting, it's a reasonably priced book. And
Oh
that
yeah.
was always the intent. Not, it wasn't going to be like a $300 book. It was intended to be accessible and easy to use and easy to buy.
And so I carry the new ones now, like the
Yeah,
after you told me where to go get them. Yeah. When we had our like conversation months ago about having this, and
yeah,
I brought it up, and you were like, oh no, they still make them, and
yeah.
so I did the whole thing where I opened up a new book account. There's so many publishers. I finally stopped. I stopped writing out the actual file names for all the publishers. I
Yeah.
now have, so I've got Llewellyn, I've got Weiser, and I've got a couple others that I had
That's a Harper
when I was,
one.
and
Yeah.
now I just have one that says random. And everybody gets a manila folder inside that one. So I'm like, I can't remember their names anymore. So
Yeah,
what? I think I have, I don't know, 15 or 20 different accounts because there's so many publishers. And if you want a certain
yeah,
book, you gotta
yeah.
you gotta jump through the
Well,
hoops.
also, it used to be that many publishers would not publish esoteric material or occult material, but in the last year or two that it's become acceptable. So you'll see all these big publishers just all of a sudden, witches, which, I mean, it's really good. It's a good thing.
It's a wonderful thing, but I
Yeah,
agree. I didn't think I'd have to open up a Simon and Schuster account,
right.
but they publish, they have Greenwich, and that's
Yeah.
very popular book. I haven't actually read it yet though, which I feel bad about. Everyone's like, "That's my favorite book." And I'm like, "Huh,
Huh.
should
Well,
probably give it a read." Well, I'll do it. So talking about publishers, so do you work for or do you work with Wiser?
yes, I am a public I am an author, and I started as an author. I took an unusual I mean, it's actually a funny story because when I got out of college, I wanted to work in publishing. And the man who became my husband, now my ex-husband, introduced me to someone who worked in publishing, and, she was sort of, uh, a tough, older New York City lady, and she kinda went, "Ah, why do you wanna do this? Publishing is dead." And so I believed her, and I went into something else, and I wrote my first book, with the book that is now the Big Book of Practical Spells, was published in, I think, 2002. And then, I mean, it's sort of a funny story. People would send me books to endorse, and often they were older books that were being reprinted, and I'd read them, and it's not really anybody's fault, but this is like we were talking about these big publishers that are, now publishing witchcraft books. The editors knew how to fix a comma, but they didn't understand the context, and
Mhm,
I was always finding mistakes in these contextual mistakes that
mhm.
I wish I wish I had read it earlier because I would have recognized this. And the editor at Wiser before me is a woman named Amber Gutebier, and I told Amber, I said, they should hire me. I'll find these mistakes, and eventually they did. And I also used to work for the Witch's Almanac before that. I'm in
Oh
acquisitions.
wow.
I mean, it's actually a funny story. I was listening to your introduction because I edited that Tracy Rollins book, the Santa Muerte book. I edited that book. I edited, and your Elohim, it's Elohim Leofar. And
Elohim
I edited Manifestation Magic and his previous book, Courtney Weber. I did not do the Brian Cutnoir book, but I did Courtney's Hecate. So it was really nice. I'm like a book midwife. That's
Oh
how
my
I
god.
describe it. I'm a book midwife. I help people, you know, I
Who does
work,
that?
I work pretty exclusively for Wiser Books, but, and I've worked there since 2015.
Hmm.
I took a couple years off, I wrote 4 big encyclopedias in a row, and I was tired, and then my parents were elderly and, I took care of them, and and after I did Mystic Saints and Sages, I'd written those 4 encyclopedias, and, honestly, I was kinda burnt out, and I didn't know if I was gonna write another book, and I thought, "Well, I'm gonna help other people write books," and, 'cause I work with amazing people. Every day I talk to amazing people, and I get to read the books first, and, it's wonderful, and, I went to work for Wiser then, and then, I don't know, after a while, I started writing again myself.
You're like, I think I could do this now. Okay. Because I feel like that reading other people's works gets you back into feeling like writing. You know,
Yeah,
it's almost like you start to get back into that flow and almost you start to think like a writer again. And
yeah,
it's weird because and I think that when that clicks over, because that's what happens to me. I don't even write stuff anymore, but I used to. And so, but if I
yeah.
start reading the same kind of stuff over and over, eventually I'll be like, this is how I would be writing. This is how I'd be narrating this right now.
Well, becoming an editor was in some ways very helpful because and I think most authors, metaphysical or otherwise, we don't really know how publishing works, like the behind the scenes. And I being able to work behind the scenes and, you know, I'm doing the editorial, but to sit in with the production people and the art people and the marketing people, you understand it so much better. And in a lot of ways, it becomes less stressful. I know how this is gonna work now, I know, because being an author is really and I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about, all the people I work with, it's really brave because, you put yourself out there, you write a book, and then and which hopefully people will love. But
Hmm.
a lot of people read just to criticize, and
Hmm.
it can be a very, very lonely, brave thing to do. And I think knowing how it works and knowing what to be nervous about and what not to be nervous about just makes your life so much easier.
I would think that, like with anything new, the first time you go through it, it's got to be terrifying, right? Because you don't understand the marketing or the art department or the, I mean,
The first time, and people don't, it's, and I work with all sorts of authors. I work with brand new baby authors who've never written anything, and and I'm blessed to work with some of the most amazing and experienced people. I'm working with Rachel Pollack on her next book, and I'm the fangirl there. She's like incredible, and she knows all. But
yeah.
the first time, my first book
Wait,
is
wait, 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 wait. Go back. What's Rachel's new book called?
uh, a walk a walk through the forest of souls. And if
Okay.
you have loved 78 Degrees of Wisdom, you will love this. It's um, I, it's incredible.
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. But
No,
like,
no.
you need to know.
I Tiffany, I could sit here and talk about other people's books for 2 hours very easily.
So,
But, the first book I wrote, it was Earth Mother Magic. It is out of print, but it has been reissued a couple times. After it went out of print, Wiser Books bought it. The original Earth Mother Magic there were only 3,000 copies printed, and, I think it sells for a lot of money on eBay. Not by me, but it's just as, essentially book scalpers. um, but there will be a new edition in December. It's being put out as a Wiser Classic and reverting to the old name Pure Magic. But the thing is, I rewrote that book 3 times. They gave me an editor. I was working. It was Fair Winds. And they gave me an editor, and it was actually one of the first 3 books ever published by Fair Winds. And I'm sure there's a whole different staff there. I know there's a whole different staff. But at the time, they gave me an editor who had never read anything magical. She worked on nutrition books, and so she didn't understand anything. And
so she was literally learning while she was reading, as in like this is.
well, my immediate reaction was anger. How could they have given me, someone who doesn't, it's like writing a book on baseball and you get somebody who doesn't know anything about baseball. Um, but I had to I had to rewrite the whole thing 3 times. That's the third, that's the third rendition, um, before she understood it. But in hindsight, it was great because at the end, if she could understand it, anybody could understand it. And she taught me,
Obstacles, man.
yeah,
Sometimes our
she taught
obstacles are the
me how to
things that.
teach people about spell casting and witchcraft, and how, somebody who hasn't, we write and we assume that our audience knows what we're talking about, but you might be someone's first book,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
you have to be able to explain it to them and have them understand it, also bring material for the sophisticated reader.
So you bring up first book.
Yeah.
I have to ask. I ask. This is one of my things I need to ask. I need to know the origin story of Judika Illes. What was your like? How was your first magical experience or your first magical book? How did you find witchcraft?
I don't know, I came this way.
Just
I
out of the
don't
box
know.
like
I
that?
don't know. I don't have a first. And I talked in the introduction to my book, Encyclopedia of Witchcraft. I don't know. I don't have a memory from before I was obsessed with witches. It's all, my mother read me a lot of fairy tales, and my mother had a subversive spirit too. In my house, the witch was the hero.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, there was, Hansel and Gretel is a dreadful story because the witch dies, not because those like children who are stealing, from the witch. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't come like, I don't have this hereditary witchcraft story or anything. I come from open-minded people with perhaps mystical spirits. We had books in the house. We had stuff. My mother. I don't remember ever not knowing Baba Yaga. My mother told me Baba Yaga, and she told me those stories. It wasn't reading, so that was there. But I by Rome, I wanted to be Morticia Adams. Or like, I mean, because that's my childhood. I was a child at that time. I watched it the first time around. So
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, I think there are those who are, they know that that's what they like.
yeah,
That's who they are
yeah,
from a
yeah.
young age. Um,
I have a witchy chart, astrological chart. I literally I just came this way. I can
it
tell
just spells it
you
out in the stars, meant to
I can
be.
tell you the first time I got tarot cards. That I can tell you. That's a pivotal experience in my life because so I am a happy accident. My sister and my cousin are like twins. They're 18 days apart, but they're both, and we lived in the same building for a long time. So they were like siblings. They're 12 years older than me. So by the time when I was starting first grade, my sister was beginning college, and she went to Cooper Union in New York City in the East Village, and ironically, the Samuel Weiser bookstore, which is the precursor to Weiser Publishing, was located maybe, I don't know, a block or two from where she went to school. And my sister would bring home stuff, and I was home. I was only a first grader. I was home a lot more than she was. So whatever I idolized her. Whatever she brought home, record albums, books. And one day she brought home a deck of tarot cards. And that was like, that was love at first sight. I
Mhm,
still have those cards.
mhm.
I mugged her. I stole them. And she was nice and she let me. The BOTA deck.
Oh, Paul Foster
Yeah.
Haystack.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
she was an art student. Cooper Union is half engineering school, half art college, and she was an art student. And
interesting.
the BOTA, like the Paul Foster case, it looks like the most incredible coloring book
It
because
does.
you're supposed to color, and of course there were all these really detailed instructions of what shade of blue, and I was like utterly
Exactly this. Yeah.
Oh, I was utterly intimidated, and I did not color them, but I love them. And that was my start in terms of divination.
So, did they come with a book? Did you attempt that?
No,
Because he's
I came
really,
with a book, and I actually could read because my mother taught herself English by teaching me how to read.
well, I mean, like,
I've been reading.
attempting to understand it is like
No,
that.
I mean, I come from. There are no children in my family. I was like in a, they let me read everything. No one ever stopped me. So, I mean, no one ever explained anything to me. There's like this HBO Jackie Collins thing. I mean, we had Jackie Collins books and I read them. I'm not telling you I understood anything, but they let me read it. No one, we had no censorship. No one was going to tell me what it meant. But hey, and I'm like a compulsive reader. Like if I have breakfast with you, I will read the back of a cereal box.
Oh, yeah.
That's almost obsessive. I'll just read whatever. So I think um there was a book, and in the book it would tell you what color you were supposed to color and everything. But I don't know. It didn't the book didn't do it for me. And I had a lot of I have all like the early tarot books, Eden Gray and all of those. But I really I was really really self-taught until I encountered the cards when I was 6,
Mhm.
but I did not go professional until I was 28. And right before, because I lost my last corporate job, it's debatable whether I quit or I was fired. So, um,
So,
but
being a
um,
reader it is.
I decided that I was gonna I didn't wa it was New York, it was 1988, it was bad, I was working in Midtown, I didn't people were getting mugged in front of you every day. I didn't want to do it. And I decided I was just going to become a card reader. I was going to be a fortune teller. And then I had this moment of panic where, what if I've been doing it wrong for all these years? So then I took a class and I was, just to make sure.
Oh, wow. And it's funny because there's so many different ways that people could teach it that you might, some they might have been like, no, you were doing it wrong. That's not the
I had a great teacher, Carol Murray. My new book is dedicated to her.
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
lovely.
well, she's no longer with us,
Oh,
but yeah, but she, that I took the class and we became very good. She's my coven sister, so that opened another door.
hmm.
But
Yeah, a lot of connections are made when you just go to a class, right? You
yeah,
just show up. Like
yeah, definitely.
some of my, most some, watchers, friends, like, it's like they turn into friends after it, like, it just kind of happens, right?
Yes, whether you're the student or the teacher,
Right,
either
right,
way.
right. It just,
Yeah,
yeah, they just, they show up again.
yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, I like you.
I mean, this is, pre-pandemic, but I love going to stores like where you go every year and you see the same people, and it's so special.
hmm.
You really, there's a real bond there.
I'm very excited for the class that you're going to be teaching. Um,
Me
oh,
too.
I told the it's weird. I don't really like the word employees. And so I tend to call them the kids. I was like, before I left today, I was like, all right, I'm leaving. I'm gonna go get ready for my interview. Um, and I was like, oh, and I just booked a class. And they were like, with her? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah,
And they're like, what? And
I
I'm like,
like
yeah.
teaching.
And they're like, what's it on? I'm like, spell casting. And they're like, we're so lucky.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad.
So they're super
I,
excited.
g- I gotta tell you though, I gotta tell you, see, I know there's a disconnect because I wrote two books that were published by Fair Winds that, in the economics of publishing, so this is like 2002, 2003. I don't think they sold badly, but it was nothing. And then I followed my editor over to Harper HarperCollins UK, which is and it was really his concept to do a gigantic spell book. If I had said, "Oh, let's do 5,000 spells and it'll be like 1,000 pages and it'll be £5," they would never have said yes. But he wanted to do. He described it was we were going to do like the joy of cooking of spells, and
Yes.
we thought,
Yes.
no. If you look at it, actually, I went to my sister's house. I had just I went to my sister's house and I here. This is the American edition. If I
But
can,
yes, it's like a
but
cookbook.
it's the pages are exactly the same. I went to my sister's house and she had a joy of cooking, and I sat there with a pad of paper and I deconstructed that book. And Elizabeth Pepper, the late Elizabeth Pepper, who is one of my heroes, who was the co-founder of the Witch's Almanac, she was a magazine professional, and she worked for Gourmet magazine. And I sent her a copy of this book, and she recognized the format immediately. She was like the first and one of the very few people who said, "Oh yes, this is the joy of cooking." But if you look at the table of contents and how they're structured, that's how. But I wrote this. It was supposed. I have a contract for 450 pages because none of us are mathematicians. And 450 pages is a big book. Can you do it? And I'm like, oh yeah. So, I started writing the introduction and I was 100 pages in, and, I was still in the introduction and I knew we were in trouble. A- And I am incredibly punctual by nature. And this was late. This is like the wild horse that I was just holding on. I just held on. The book essentially went where I wanted to go. It expanded.
Mhm.
Um, and I was so lucky because I had an editorial staff. This by shout out to Greg Brandenburg, who I love, who protected me because anybody else would have said, rewrite this, but he recognized this. I mean, I didn't. I wept through most of this, and I was convinced no one was going to. this is before, if you think back, this was published in 2004.
Hmm.
Um, this is before folk magic was like a positive thing. And that's really my thing. It was all, high magic and low magic and you know, and I wrote it and I was convinced no one was going to like it. And no one was going to buy it, but if they bought it, they weren't going to like it. And so, but I was inexperienced in terms of publishing because of course they had pre-orders already, but I didn't know that. Um, and when they came to me, they originally asked me to write an encyclopedia of fairies, but Anna Franklin had just published a beautiful book, and I just thought she did it. I didn't want to do it. Uh, and then they came back and said, "Do you want to write an encyclopedia of witchcraft?" And I thought, "Oh, I better sign on to this before they realize I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to sell any copies, and I have to go back to like selling makeup in a mall." Which is, what I did for a while.
I think it's so good for people to hear that there is doubt in the beginning of great projects, right? And it's
No one told me I couldn't do it.
and
I
that's
will say that that was sort of my thing. Afterwards, I have met people who told me, "Oh, this kind of book is usually done with like 6 authors." I mean, I didn't know. Um, I
you're like, what? It's
I
never
didn't
felt
know.
like that.
No one told me it couldn't be done, so I did it. And I think you have to be very careful of people discouraging you. People saying you can't do it or that's not
Yes.
how it's done. I did not know that I was not supposed to be able to do this, so I did it. Um, and I still get rejections. And I know that surprises people. And I and it's I work with a lot of authors and some of them are inexperienced and they've had a successful first book or a second book, and then they get turned down for something and they're shocked. But I still get turned down because it's not about you. It's not about the author. I mean, unless you're a celebrity. And then it doesn't matter what you're writing. I mean, if you are like a major celebrity, I think people assume, you're a celebrity, you're a president, you're uh, you know, famous murderer, something like that. I
Mhm.
they figure your book is going to sell regardless of what you write. That's a personality driven book.
Yeah.
But for most of us, it's the project. And the reality is, and I have had my share of mean rejection letters, but the reality is publishers, you have to find the right publisher for your work.
Hmm.
It's like sending your kid off to school.
Hmm.
Not all your kids need the same school. And you publishers make their decisions they think they can market.
Right.
And if your publisher doesn't think they can market you, if they don't look at you and go, wow, that's it's not that it's a good book, but this is a book that we know how to market, then what do you need them for? There's no stigma in self-publishing anymore, as there used to be.
Yeah.
So
You can
there,
sell it. You can publish it and sell
there
it
are
right
a
on
lot of
Amazon.
ways to be published, and if you really want to be published, you can do it one way or another. You don't have to sort of wait. You don't have to be dependent that if this one doesn't do it, now I'm screwed and I'll never publish. As with spell casting, persistence is a good thing.
Hmm.
And not knowing that you can't do something.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. God, who was the person who said it? Uh, tell me what you think isn't possible with magic, and I'll show you where your limits are.
Right.
Lee Morgan, I think, said it in Standing and Not Falling. And he's like, just tell me what you
It's
think
true.
magic can't do, and I'm going to tell you that that's where your magical limits are.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, right? Of course
It's true.
that's true, but what? I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, we're inside and you see barriers around you and the ability to, do that blockbuster where you're going to break through those barriers. I mean, it's a mind-blowing thing.
Yeah, and sometimes it's when you don't realize that someone else sees a barrier there,
Yeah.
you're just going to walk right through it because it doesn't exist for
Right.
you, which
Right.
is great. And because of that, we have
Yeah.
your encyclopedia that I'm gonna take a moment and bring up one of the spells in here. You know, the one to get rid of ghosts.
Oh, yeah.
Just
Oh, which
flash
well,
them your
there are a number of them.
just flash them your vagina. It's
Yeah.
it's in the
But it's
book.
but think about it, but think about it. This was, like, kind of my PhD in spellcasting. I mean, I had been doing this forever, but when the writing took about 9 months, the collection was a lot longer. The reason I wrote the book is this was after the book you mentioned, Magic When You Need It.
Hmm.
That has 150 spells. The
Hmm.
person Greg, he knew I collected them. I mean, that's a whole other story. I had shoe boxes and shoe boxes, but for about 9 months, I organized everything, and I was typing them in, and after a while, if you do that, I spent 9 months, it's like a pregnancy, doing nothing but being immersed in spells.
Hmm.
And then you start to see rhythms and you start to see patterns because there is a it has its own logic. And if you think about it, it's it's life. There's a lot of spells involving genitals or images of genitals because those here, and not because they're sexy. They might be sexy, but I mean, if they're very sexy, the ghost might want to stay around. But but to think of it as it is the opposite of death. Ghosts is this manifestation of death, all the yin energy, and all that sort of living energy that is pushing back at it. And in your ancestors, the protection of your ancestors. I mean, how did we all get here? Genitals. Someplace there, even if you're a test tube baby, someplace. um but
Genitals.
but,
Love it.
it is not always convenient or legal to flash, your vagina at someone. So, we have the fig hand, which, dates back to ancient Rome, which, the fig hand is, oh, can you, I'm like trying to see if you can see me in the camera. It's this gesture where you stick your thumb. Ooh, can you see me?
Like
Yeah,
this.
you stick your thumb through the fingers, and, since the Romans, it's been used, against ghosts, against the evil eye. The Romans perceived it as mimicking sexual intercourse. So, that may
Wow.
be easier, and there's a lot I wish I'd known because I actually have a really nice fig hand, necklace that I wear sometimes. I like amulets, and so, it
I've
you can
seen that before on a necklace, and I didn't know what it was for.
the fig hand, it's a
Oh.
protective amulet. It's, up yours basically. Go away, ghost. Evil eye back at you.
Oh, I'm
The
gonna
pow
find these
the power
necklaces.
of my ancestors and my own life force compels you to, get out of here. And, I mean, I would say it works. Um,
I've not had a chance to use it. It is what I'm planning on using if I run into a ghost, though, that I don't want to hang around with. Just gonna.
right, right. I mean, sometimes you might wanna keep them around.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
it would have to be somebody who's causing some shit. I wanna get
Well,
rid
I have to tell you, I go on all these shows and, they wanna know about, like, how do you ghost bust? And I'm, like, all about the ghost coexistence. I think it's, like, nice if you can, like,
of.
we can
We
share
have
the
an altar
space.
for ours. Like
Yeah, yeah, share the
in our
space,
yeah.
sometimes you gotta tell them to behave.
Yeah,
But, like, we gotta but, you might have to do that with, children and dogs and old folks also.
we cohabitate. They can
Yeah,
stay. It's fine.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
we have room.
um, we had some occurrences happen um like shortly after my daughter's boyfriend moved in. And we'd always had some stuff happening and going on, but he specifically had some weird things happen. And so he and my daughter came to me and talked about it, and I was like, well, what we can do is we can, build a connection here, and therefore, uh, they'll become more of like protectors of the house, and
Yeah.
less, so they were like, well, what
We'll
do we
give
do?
them a
And I was like,
job.
yeah, I was like, so we built them an altar, and they
Yeah,
have offerings and incense, and
yeah,
I was like,
and they're
so
probably happier.
you need an icon, right? You need like some
Yeah,
sort of, well, you don't need, but it's nice to have a representation of
something.
who this
Yeah,
altar's for. And
Yeah.
I collect antique ceramic ghosts, like Halloween ghosts.
Oh,
So they chose
that's
one.
great.
He was like this like really cool little like laid back guy in a white
Oh,
sheet.
I
He's
love that.
oh, I love it too. And so yeah, it was so yeah. But again, if I run into a ghost, I don't want to round. That's gonna be my first thing. But I guess now I have this too because I might not be brave enough to just go ahead and drop my panties.
Well,
So,
depending where you are, it may not
right,
who you're
right.
with, right?
I like that I now have a portable, handheld version.
I've seen ghosts almost all my life. I mean, maybe all my life. Um, and they don't bother me. I can't tell you that I've ever had a bad ghost experience. Um, mostly they're neutral. But as a child, I realized that I was seeing things that maybe other people weren't. And I found that frightening. I found that more frightening, that I was seeing something and, it was like two realities going on.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah, and not being
in
able to
those kind of
understand that.
situations, you drop your panties, they're not gonna think it's a ghost. Can you
Well,
imagine in
no,
school?
no.
So the fig hand is pretty innocuous. The thing with the fig hand is what is if you see them or you feel them, you kind of if you're doing it with your hand, I can't work this camera well. Um, you want to kind of gesture towards them, possibly a little aggressively. I don't know if you can see
That is kinda scary looking. Ugh.
yeah, well, I mean, I have like a hand amulet here.
Mhm.
I collect hands, not real ones, but, jewelry ones or amulets, and so there's a lot of hand things, there's a lot of hand gestures. The thing with the hand gestures are really ancient, and they're
Mhm.
not always convenient, or maybe you don't always know when to do it. So the jewelry and the symbols on carpets and things like that are intended to sort of do your job for you.
Mhm.
The amulet knows, it's radiating that energy, but there's, like, the Moroccan where you kind of, like, thrust your 5 fingers oh, where's the f yeah, against the evil eye, 5 in your
Mm.
eye. You have to envision yourself
5
yeah,
right
in
in your
the eye.
eye.
I mean, do not touch anybody's eye. It's you have to tell people this. It's radiating magic. You don't actually have to touch it's not the literal eye. So
It's not direct contact. It's just
yeah, no, no, please, that's bad.
keep that in mind. We should look at some comments. I feel like I've been ignoring people because I just wanna talk to you.
I
Alright,
can't see any of this. I
let
don't
me
even know.
let's look at some of these. Let's go back a little bit. Let's see. Oh, we've got so many. This, Jean says that I worked at Sephora and now want to get back to my writing roots, so it's encouraging to hear your story.
Yes,
Hey.
yes. Well, cosmetics are ancient, magical. I mean, there's such magical roots to cosmetics. The Egyptians with the black eyeliner to protect against the evil eye.
Oh,
There's so much. And, if you read the book of, I mean, I think Genesis, the angels, how do we know about cosmetics? Because angels fell in love with human women and taught them the secrets. So it's an angelic secret, who needs chocolate when angels will teach you occult secrets?
you wrote a monthly column series, Ancient
Yes,
Beauty Secrets.
yes.
And that these I want to read all of these, like all of them. They're all from 2000,
Are
two
they
thousand
still
one.
are they still online? I don't even know.
So all I could find was on your Wikipedia. There's a list of them.
I don't
And
own them. It
what's that?
was written this was before I was a published author, and I got a gig writing for, it is the Ministry of Egypt. It was an official site. Their tourism magazine, their English language tourism magazine, and I wrote a monthly column, something Beauty Secrets of the Ancient Egyptians. And I had so much fun with it. And I'm an aromatherapist. Um,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
so a lot of working with essential oils and the embalming and the mummification was a lot of it used essential oils. So the Egyptians were incredibly sophisticated. Cleopatra wrote a book on cosmetics. It's just so fascinating.
Yeah. There's
They're
a lot
online
here.
someplace. I mean, I can't publish them because I don't it was written for the magazine and the magazine owns the rights.
Yeah.
Um,
They should do something with it. I mean,
Yeah.
perfumes of ancient Egypt, hair care and wigs. Let's see, Tutankhamun's perfume,
Yes.
cat's eyes and eye makeup. I want to read that. This is so great. Okay,
It's
I
called
totally sidetracked. We were going to read comments. Went off the rails. Sonia says, typical strong female doing the job of six people, right? Right. Oh, I'm just going to write this whole thing myself. Oh, no, six people normally do that.
I didn't know.
I'm so
You
glad you
know,
didn't know
I didn't
because
know.
the fact that you did it, it expanded my horizons. It expanded
Good, I'm
my
glad.
understanding of what could actually be done in a book because I didn't know it. Like this is
Well, we
seriously
didn't know. Well,
it's great.
I mean,
I'm so
we
glad.
we didn't know. It was supposed to be a 450-page book that was, submitted in May, and instead it was like I d I don't know how the published book is 1,000 words, 1,000 pages. I don't know how long the manuscript actually was because there was a
Hmm.
point where I got so depressed I stopped numbering the pages. It wasn't written, consecutively. It
Hmm.
was written I had a
Yeah.
wonderful editor, copy editor, who sewed it together like a patchwork quilt of small pieces. And at the end, I was just sending spells, and she was making sure we didn't duplicate them and
Hmm.
sewing them together. And, I was telling her roughly where it went, but, this is a money spell, and this is a healing spell, and this is, and she was amazing. Um, but I never actually saw the book until they sent me a copy.
Oh
I
wow.
didn't know how long it was gonna be. I thought they were gonna cancel I mean, they would have been within their rights to cancel it because it was past there's like a little, extra time. If you have a contract, let's say your book is due October 1st, you have a little extra time, but I went past that. I I had a contract for 450 pages. I was more than double. I they would have been within their rights to cancel it, and I
Hmm.
was weeping, just, "I'm never gonna write again. This is, factory work for me."
I've gone too big and it's gonna destroy me.
Yeah, yeah,
Nope.
yeah, no, I mean, it really it wasn't what they wanted. I mean, but then it was. Y
Yeah.
we didn't know it was
Yeah.
what we wanted, so and then when I wrote Encyclopedia of Witchcraft, they were telling me, "Yeah, yeah, do it the same size."
You're like, I don't know, guys. That was really hard. Can I get five assistants, maybe?
It was a luxury, it was a luxury because what you have to do with most a lot of spells have variations.
Hmm.
A lot of spells are old or there are variants or tweaks, and usually you have to pick one. But I got to not pick one. I got to put in a bunch of because there was at 450 pages even I thought we had room. But we actually did. So there are variants. There's like there's the very famous beef tongue spell.
Hmm.
Um and there are a lot of different versions of that, and I've got several versions. I've got a version for vegans in there, if you just if you can't bring yourself to actually use the beef tongue, well, you can use blocks of ice instead.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I know about the beef. I don't remember what the beef tongue spell is though. Is it where we nail it to
no,
the board?
it is to control someone's mouth, and you do not go out and harm any cows.
Right.
This is people eat beef tongue, so you buy it from a butcher or a supermarket, even though you may have to. I mean, I went. It's in my experience, it's very effective. I mean,
Hmm.
I've had to, but it's something you have to plan because in general, because I mean, I had to go out a supermarket to get me one. It's not something these are not chicken wings that you're just going to find in the refrigerator case. It is to control someone's mouth as because it's a sympathetic magic. As you manipulate the tongue, you are manipulating someone else,
Hmm.
and it is usually used either against gossip, malicious speech, or in my case it was for court. Oh, this just fell down. It's okay. It falls down. It's too heavy. It falls down all the time.
It still
um
looks fine. Everything looks good.
it is what it is. It provides the comic relief. um or to, control, if you have a legal proceeding,
Hmm.
the judge, the jury, the witnesses, and what you do is you get a beef tongue, and you write on little pieces of paper, like a fortune cookie slip. You write the names of whoever it is that you want to control, and you make slits in the tongue, and then you put the paper in there, and then you sew it up, and then you add things like hot pepper, and the hottest pepper you can find, or things that, I mean, some people use cigarette ashes.
Oh
uh
wow. Yeah.
I mean, depending, it's really what you've got in the house. I mean, if you like spicy food like me, you've got a lot of pepper. If you don't like it but you smoke, maybe you've got something else. You put in something that makes it hard to speak, and then you sew it up, and then you wrap it up, and you put it in the freezer, and you leave it there at least until you feel safe, or until you need to replace the refrigerator, which, you know, I'm I attended I did a workshop after one of my I probably my first book was published, and there were a number of metaphysical authors, and one of the questions that came up is, what is like your most used magical tool? And we all agreed our refrigerator. Because like there's stuff in the refrigerator. If anyone has read Italian Folk Magic,
Hmm.
uh, by Mary Grace Farron, I edited that book. I begged her to write that book. I knew her before she wrote that book. I begged her to write it, but she's got all these refrigerator stuff. She talks about someone who has two refrigerators, one for the food and one for the spells.
To have a separate deep freezer, right? Just for,
Yeah, well,
don't touch that one. Don't touch anything in that freezer. Just leave it alone.
that's exactly what's in the book. Exactly. Someone goes to the wrong freezer.
Don't unwrap that. Yeah, freezer. Yeah, the amount of freezer spells I've, just you can even just put their name in a jar, put it in the freezer.
Yeah, you got to cool them off.
Somebody's like, I
Yeah,
have ice cube trays. Just like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah, yeah.
which
Or
one?
film canisters, little film,
Oh,
the old-fashioned film canisters, because they can't break.
yeah.
You
I
can't.
used to, I used to use those for everything, like
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
Like I would use it to transport paint, right? Like or varnish,
yeah,
just stuff that I needed to brush on. Like I would love them for everything,
yeah.
everything. Oh, Avi says, forget J.K. Rowling, Judika, you
Oh,
changed a generation of many practitioners. This backstory is
oh,
like the reason why I love the craft the way it is. This was
Avi's a
destiny.
wonderful person. I thank you, Avi. I'm so happy to see you here.
I agree. You influenced the next generation of practitioners. Absolutely.
It's
You
a very
know.
interesting story though, because Big Book of Practical Spells. So that book has had a progression. It was Earth Mother Magic. It went out of print, and when publishers put books back into print, they tend to change the name. So then it became Pure Magic, and then it became the Big Book of Practical Spells. But I have a preface in that edition, in the Big Book of Practical Spells, which if someone wants it, they should probably get it, because there's going to be a new edition at the end of the year, which is going to have a whole new preface.
Okay.
But I talk about, my children were the age where we read Harry Potter out loud, and I would watch other people, and they were so that longing for magic, the Muggle mothers, with their children, and it was all fantasy, but they didn't for them, but they didn't want it to be fantasy. And I, had like I would watch people at the park or different places, and it was always very interesting to me, because you have when you go into a bookstore, and I don't mean a little bookstore that is owned by someone or an individual and they do what they want, but if you go into a chain, they will never put the Harry Potter books and the fantasy witchcraft on the same table as the real witchcraft. And if you think about it, there's always a display in October. There's always, it's Halloween, it's, the witching season, but they won't. And I know those kids who love Harry Potter, my book, other people's books, they'd love to read those books.
Hmm.
And they're like so segregated. It's really
Interesting.
kind of tragic.
They're like, this is not a gateway to
Yeah.
witchcraft.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
not for real. But I mean it. I mean, when Harry Potter came out, when all of that started,
Yeah.
it felt like home to me. It felt like, oh, this is what I've always wanted. I've always wanted to get the letter that I was going to go to witch school.
Yeah. It's
right?
the dream job to go
It
work
was the
there.
dream come true. Like
Yeah,
this kid is living my fantasy. Like this is
yeah,
amazing. So and I think that it was for so many people a way to enjoy that thing that they maybe didn't even realize they loved so much. Because
yeah.
it entered their life
But I
in
always feel it's sort of
fiction.
sad that it's sort of that they're kept so far apart
Oh
because
yeah.
if you don't, if you somehow do not make that connection yourself, all the real witches are reading Harry Potter, and I mean, and I have some issues with it. But I mean, the real witches are reading all the witch novels. But the people who come in through the witch novels may not know that there's this whole genre of material that will really teach you how to do it. It's not like you don't have to walk around making with like made up incantations. You can do it yourself.
Hmm. I think that though, let me tell you, as a kid in a bookstore or a library, if
Yeah.
there is a cult, if you're interested in the occult and there is an occult section in some way, you will find it. You will sniff that shit out. Like it will be like, I know
It's
that there is
usually in the
something
basement in the
metaphysical here.
corner. But you
What?
can find it's usually in the basement in the corner. Seriously. I'm not being sarcastic, I know.
Furthest part away, which is
There
a
there's,
reason.
oh, you have to look it up there because libraries are done with numbers, the Dewey Decimal System, and there is, and I don't remember, I used to know because libraries are wonderful. I could not have afforded to do, a lot of the research for my own books
Hmm.
without libraries and interlibrary loans and things like that. So libraries are something to protect and really take advantage of. But there is a number that is the occult books. And once you know that number, and it is like it's usually in the basement or in a corner, and it's tucked away where it's not gonna, for whatever reason, it's tucked
Hmm.
away. But once you know the number, you can find it.
Yeah, I know exactly where it is in the library that I go to now.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know what the number is, but I know exactly where it is.
yeah,
Uh, I'm one of those people that knows my library card by heart.
yeah, yeah,
As I go so often. I love it because I read a lot of witchcraft books and stuff for work, for interviews, and to kind of keep on top of my game. I need to read fiction, otherwise I will go crazy.
yeah,
Oh, so
yeah.
yeah,
Me
but
too. The palate
I
cleanser.
love it. Huh?
It's
Palate
the
cleanser.
palate
Yes.
cleanser. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
I
definitely.
want to read for enjoyment. And the thing is,
Yeah.
I love reading these things too, but I know that I have to stay sharp. I have to
Well, it's a
understand what I'm
different kind of
reading.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good, but it's
I
different.
I can hear it, I journalize a lot of people I get mail, and I know someone is saying, "Oh, my library doesn't have any occult books." And depending where you are in the nature of your library, sometimes it's genuinely censorship, or
Hmm.
sometimes it's, we won't carry those, diabolical books. But sometimes it is because the librarians or the people who order the books, it never occurs to them that people want to read them. And so sometimes if you see a book that you want, and I mean, this is going to sound terrible, but especially if it is from a reputable publisher who sends out a catalog and the librarians will recognize the name of, this can't be too bad. This publishing house who I get other books from is publishing it. Often if you ask for it, or two people will ask for it,
Hmm.
they'll buy it and they'll stock it for you. It never occurs to them. It's, I go to classes. I mean, this pandemic, I have taken more classes because there's all these Zoom classes. So I take all these Zoom classes, and a lot of them are very academic,
Hmm.
and they're academic specialists on different types of magic or facets of magic. And of course, they're academics and they have their own issues, and they're worried about their tenure. But half of the class will always be about how, well, isn't this so interesting and it's anthropological? And of course, it's not. Of course, we don't believe that there's really magic, but here, let me tell you. And I find it so sad,
Hmm.
you know, because magic is joy. It's the joy, I think I feel bad. All these people, I don't believe in magic. I feel so sorry for them.
Show me where your limits are, man.
I,
Right?
I
Like,
mean, they think they're smart. They think they're smarter. They think they're more rational. I know I can bring a room to silence. Like if it's sort of a muggle room, like, eventually, like, if you this is pre-pandemic when, you were going places and meeting new people, and, the muggle thing to do is, what do you do? Oh, I'm a stockbroker. Oh, I'm a real estate agent. Oh, I'm a doctor. Oh, I'm whatever. And they get to me and I go, I'm a fortune teller. And like you could hear a pin drop because they don't know. Am I really a fortune
Right?
teller?
Oh,
Or
what?
or
Wait,
or I'm
can you
just,
be that for real? Is that a real
yeah, exactly. Is that for real?
she does that mean con man? Is that what she means?
A
Because
charlatan?
yeah, yeah.
But inevitably somebody the person who laughs the loudest corners me before I get in my car and wants to
Hey,
know,
so yeah. I think maybe do you see anything weird about me? Can you just tell me now? Like that kind of
"What
stuff.
does my aura look like?"
Is it weird? Does it feel weird right here? Does it look weird? Like is this a thing? No, yeah, it's amazing that the Muggle world is something I don't partake in a whole lot, honestly. I don't live there a bunch, right? Like I
Yeah, see,
work.
I've never had the benefit of living in an exclusively witch world, um, and I think it makes me a better writer because I have always had to make my forays.
You have to be ready to teach that first editor how to do spell casting, right? Like you've already like figured out that you need to be able to relate
I mean,
to
I
them
I
too.
think every author has motivations for why they write, and probably more than one. But one of my motivations, and I did not start out to be a metaphysical author. I sort of fell into it. But I I do worry. I We should never feel too safe as practitioners because the history of magical, since Egypt, it has not been a friendly world. The pagan Romans were not, it was not a magic friendly culture. Um, so we can't even point the finger at, oh, this culture came in and now everything's bad. That suspicion of independent magical practitioners and the power they have is held by secular and religious authorities alike. And on any given day, if you look around, I mean, I would not want to be a witch in Saudi Arabia right now or plenty of other places. Um, I think a lot of us have that urge. We're independent and we want to know, and we are, like me, just drawn to the magical arts. And there are places, even now, and maybe even America, that are not safe. And one of the reasons I write for people who want to use it, but I also want others to understand it.
Mhm.
I want them not to be so afraid, that
Yes.
knee-jerk fear. I mean, sometimes you should be afraid, but there are a lot of reasons to be afraid.
Yeah.
Uh there's plenty of non-magical people to be afraid of too, and to have some distance. So I wanted people to understand what this is, because so many people think, oh, witchcraft bad, but they don't even know what it is.
Hmm.
So that was one of the reasons I write. So I mean, I think that's a bit of a blessing that I spent a lot of time behind Muggle lines.
Yeah, because you could relate and you can see how education could head off the
Yeah,
problems,
yeah,
right? Getting
yeah.
them on board with
Just
actually
just so they know
understanding.
they don't have to kill us or discriminate against us. And I mean, there are, there are people, I don't want to point a finger. In the new introduction to the most recent edition of Encyclopedia of Witchcraft, I have a section on witch panics historical, but
Hmm.
then I ended up writing about new ones and current ones. So, we have to be careful where we go and who we say, well, this is who I am and what I do, because self-preservation is important. If you can't take care of yourself, you're not casting any spells.
Right.
It's hard to have fun with witchcraft if people are persecuting you.
Yeah. It's,
So,
it's a very sobering point.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
agreed. Uh, uh, click on this here. So obviously, said very true. We forget how unsafe it is around this day
yeah.
and age. More reasons why your works are refreshing.
I hope
Gives
so.
everyone hope.
I hope so.
Yes. Um,
The magical arts are so wonderful, and even if you don't do anything but have fun with it, I think that there is, I mean, it was my case, and I think for a lot of people, there's that sort of aesthetic witchcraft that it's very profound. I don't mean that in a denigrating way. It is that sort of the beauty of witchcraft, and oh, I'm going to put on a scarf and dance under the moonlight, and of course tonight is Midsummer's Eve, and we've
yes.
almost free. It's one of the most magical nights of the year. I'm going to go outside myself and check out the moonlight after we finish speaking. But there is that aspect of it, and that can bring so much joy. I think for a lot of people, when you find yourself in a situation where the conventional solutions are not working for you.
Mhm.
And so at that point you go from being someone who is an aesthetic witch to someone who is a working witch. You've got a problem and it must be fixed, and I mean, nothing else is working, so this has to work. And I mean, that was true for myself. I can say this is the point where I went from someone who loved it and liked burning candles and had a coven, and it was very spiritual, and then the point where it went from that into a very intensely personal, I don't even know how to say that, but it became something else. We went from one realm into another realm, and
Mhm.
it did work, and it did save me.
Necessity, right? The
Necessity.
necessity that you have
Yes.
to do this. It has to
Yes.
work. We're going to do this
Yes.
now and it's going to work.
Yes.
It's going to freaking
Yes.
work.
Yes.
Um,
Right.
because that is a different mindset. That's a different magic mindset than, like you said, lighting candles and doing veneration and building connections, which is very beautiful and lovely. It's like
Yeah.
the maintenance work, right? It's the getting you in tune, and it's getting you in that flow, and it's beautiful and it feels great. But suddenly you need something. You need this thing to happen, and so it's and I think that those other things are what make your magic stronger when you need it. Then
Sure. Exactly. And I think that if you are open to the magical arts, and I'm saying that rather than witchcraft because different people understand witchcraft in different ways, but even just I think you become so open to the beauty and the wonder of the world. It is a world of wonders, and every color and every aroma and every plant and what you put in your mouth, and everything has a meaning. And it's just the dragonfly like floating across the sky. And it is a beautiful way to live. And I think the world would be a kinder and nicer place if more people were like that, if more people appreciated that.
if more people could feel joy from merely
Yeah.
living in this world,
Yeah.
like
And to
absolutely,
be aware that everything is alive in its way.
yeah, it would be nicer. It would be easier. It's amazing that the magical arts has the reputation that it does. I mean, I understand. There's a spectrum of people
We're,
in all
we're, we're
things,
mainly the good guys.
but
I,
we are
I,
mainly the
I mean,
good guys, man.
we are the good guys. I mean,
There's a couple of things that are bad, but we are mainly
you
the good
know, angry people do angry things regardless of where they are. Every
guys.
couple of years, there's a scandal about a pharmacist who has not actually been putting the full dose in the medicine, and people are dying because of that person. And but no one says, let's close all the pharmacies. All the pharmacists are bad. It's just
Turns
there's
out just a bad. There's bad
there
seeds,
there's
all of
just a
them.
there's just a greedy person. Or,
Right.
every once in a while there's a nurse who turns out to be, the so-called angel of mercy, and but we're not saying, "Oh, no, get rid of the nurses." But like one witch, one magical practitioner turns out to not be kind or do something cruel or be I mean, first of all, if they're a charlatan, there are people who are the real deal and charlatans simultaneously, and that's a whole other thing. But there are people who are totally charlatans. They're not magical practitioners.
Right.
This is, if I walk across the street and say, "Hi, I'm a physician." I mean, I'm not. I can say it. I can say it, I can forge a piece of paper, but
Say it.
I'm not one. Just because I say it doesn't mean it's so. And so it's the same with magical practitioners. And I always recommend that people cast your own spells, learn how to do it for yourself. Don't occasionally you may have to pay someone to do something, you may need a specialist, and there are things that are better. But in general, find your power, find your own power
Mhm.
because you tempt people. You make it almost too easy for people to exploit you. Don't let them.
Yeah, interest. That's a good point. Yeah, too. Like, teach yourself how to fish, so you don't have to pay these exorbitant prices for fish.
Yeah, but it's not just the prices, it's not just the money. When spell work is about people's secret desires, your innermost desires. And when you go to someone and you say, "Oh, I need you to cast the spell for me," and it's about this thing that it's a secret and I really want it or I really need it. You're showing them your vulnerabilities. You
Hmm.
may not know who these people are.
Right? That's a very
These
good
could be
point.
strangers.
A
So you
very
saw,
good
like, on
point.
Facebook, oh, yes, there are, 3 people, these people who I think are smart like them, so they must be good. Who knows? Um, you're giving away your power, you're revealing your vulnerabilities, and you need to be cautious. You leave yourself open to someone my mother and my daughter both love, like, really terrible television, and I watch TV socially, and so I see a lot of catfish, and, like, you look at these stories, and it's like, you think that won't happen to me, and I mean, and it won't if you use I mean, it might, but
Some of them
under
are
the
real good.
circumstances. But I mean, if you have someone you're sort of exposing your innermost desires to someone who you've never spoken with, you only have an internet relationship. It's my mother used to tell me the 11th commandment is thou shalt not tempt, and it is very tempting.
So, uh, you're a tarot reader, right?
Yeah,
That's kind of your
my
gig. That's one of
favorite.
your specialties, right?
Yes.
Yeah. One of the things that happens during a tarot reading is that people spill their guts to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And there is no confidentiality agreement here. Like, like, I mean,
I
no,
think there
as
is.
a
I
reader,
mean, there isn't legally. I
no,
mean,
but they have no protection, is what I'm saying. And it's time where they've never met me before. We are sitting down for the
yeah,
very first time ever, and uh, I mean, and I appreciate it because I think it makes the reading better. Like I can understand the cards better. I can help them understand what the cards are
yeah.
trying to say better if they give me more information. But uh, they spill guts, man. Like it's everything, and sometimes like you said, like it's like you're being tempted, like and I don't take advantage of people or anything like
I
that, but
I think that divination relationship is one of the most sacred relationships on earth, and
yes,
I have people I've read for, almost 30 years.
mm-hmm,
Not a lot, but some.
mm-hmm,
Um, and I mean, you develop these it's like a weird like what you're saying, I don't like calling them employees. I don't even know what to call because it is a friend and it is a client and it's you become very involved with people's lives.
mm-hmm.
But I do think that, and I mean, I have a Scorpio moon. I can keep my mouth shut. Yeah, Byron Ballard and Dorothy Morrison too. Um, but
I'm in good company here. I like
yeah,
this.
no, but we could keep our mouth shut.
That's good.
It's not a hard thing for me not to tell other people's secrets.
Right.
Um, I think that if you do, I think that if you exploit that situation, I do think it comes back to bite you. There is that, what you reap, you will sow. And I think, if you cast too many angry spells, it will start coming back to you.
Yes.
Um, you attract angry spirits. And I think if you betray people, I, I, and especially people come to you and they do spill their guts and they're very vulnerable. And often they come, in my experience, because they don't have anybody else to talk to, or they want to talk about things. I, you know,
They don't have anybody who's not connected to the situation.
or even in my experience, people who want to talk about esoteric things.
Mm-hmm.
They've had these experiences and they're not even sure, they're not crazy. So who are you going to talk to? I mean, and I've had people tell me that really explicitly, like,
Mm-hmm.
you think I'm crazy, because if you think I'm crazy, then I must be crazy.
If the witch reading my
Right,
colleague thinks I'm crazy, well, then I might be crazy.
exactly. If even I think they're crazy, then well,
Because you are the wise woman, right? They
uh,
come for the wisdom.
maybe, but also because I see a lot of weird stuff. I have my own weird stuff,
That's where the
so
wisdom comes from, right? The
yeah,
experience, the perspective.
yeah.
They're looking for your perspective.
I
It's
mean,
important.
I just said, like, I see ghosts,
Hmm.
it's like, it's just a thing, but if I can say that, how can I not believe someone else who tells me, I don't know, they see whatever? Yeah,
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah, I think the worst thing we can do is not believe them. That sets it up for a really, really bad relationship right off the bat. Like,
Well,
uh-uh.
people have different experiences, and we're not all living in exactly the same reality, so
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love looking at it that way because, you know, uh, at the shop, we get a lot of people who come in who
yeah,
are scared because
I
they've
bet.
just started having experiences. They don't know how to handle them. They don't, like you said, am I going crazy? What's happening here? Uh, so it's just a matter of telling them that it's okay. And then usually what I do at that point is I have a, you know, network of people I'll send them to depending on what they're dealing with. So I'm like, I have a specialist in that
I had a
area.
lot of people, with psychic abilities, or who demonstrated them as a child and had
Hmm.
it beaten out of them, or
Hmm.
they were told, "It's the devil," um, stuff like that, a and now as an adult, they have to deal with it. So, you know, who are you gonna speak with? Uh, we really do serve a very important purpose.
You know, I didn't realize that part of it when I started, right? I
Mhm.
started very selfishly, right? At 15, I just wanted to be a witch so
Yeah,
bad, right? So I
sure.
just studying and working and I just want to know this. I want to know the secrets. I want to know how to do things. And it wasn't until I started interacting with the world as a reader that I realized that I had something to that the readings weren't just they were so much more than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
They were so much more. There was a lot more responsibility,
Yeah, definitely.
to take care of these people who are coming to you for for answers, for perspective, right? In the guise of guidance, right? It was just like, well, here's how I see the situation, and here's some options for you, right? Like that kind of stuff. Um, and didn't realize how important it was.
Yeah,
My dog is freaking out. I don't know if you can hear her, but I'm going to
yeah,
go let her in the back door.
yeah.
I'm going to talk to the people for a moment. I'll be right back.
Oh, oh, no, she put me on the spot, I have
I
to
know. I'm
talk.
so sorry.
Maybe the dog is seeing ghosts,
Tell
that
them.
could be.
Tell them. What is your favorite new book coming out right now
My favorite new book of my own or
besides
somebody
yours?
else's? I edit a lot of I edit about maybe, I don't know, 8 to 16 books a year, and I can't say which are my favorites because they're all like my children. Like, you can't, you know, I I can't say this is my favorite author that I work with or this is my favorite book, but I do. Wiser Books has some terrific books coming out in the next year. Um, I mean, my own books, but that's the same with my own books. I can't say, I'm lucky I have a son and a daughter, so I can say you're my favorite girl and you're my favorite boy. I don't know what I
Yeah.
would do if I had 5 girls. I'd be like, I'd be in trouble.
I was just having this conversation yesterday because I was saying that my middle child, she is my favorite middle child, favorite one.
Right. And it's the same with my own books. It the whatever is the new book is always the stressful book because, will people be kind to it? Will it meet with a good reception? Uh, I curated 2 books of short stories, occult fiction, the Wiser Book of the Fantastic and Forgotten, and the Wiser Book of Occult Detectives. And those are short stories. I wrote the introduction. I chose the stories. I arranged the stories like, it
You
was like a disc
curated it.
jockey. Yeah, it was so much fun. I love doing those. Those were like so stress free because I just got to showcase wonderful material. I wish more people bought short stories because I really like doing it, but they don't sell well enough to justify publishing more. So
I definitely
buy these books so I can write another one, so I can do
um
another one.
after you and I had our like pre-interview months
Yeah,
ago. Shh, stop, baby. Um, I ordered those for the shop because
did
I
you?
was so excited about them. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Well, I
you-
hope somebody bought them.
I'll have to look at inventory. I don't know, but I was excited to get them in. I think
Yeah.
again, fiction is awesome, and I love witchy fiction. I love strange fiction. I love
Well,
haunting.
also,
You know,
the cult fiction, until the last 50 years or so, it was very we could not be having this discussion in an open forum. The legality of discussing the occult in a non-negative way, in a positive way, was very tenuous. In Britain, the last witchcraft acts, which included publishing, were not they lasted through I think 1954, if I'm correct. In the US, because it was associated with fraud, if you mailed a book, it was a postal violation.
oh,
There were all kinds of reasons. I remember when I moved to California in
wow.
1990, I remember having to check around and find out. I got a job on a psychic hotline. I was a telepsychic.
That's on
Um,
your Wikipedia too.
yeah.
I was going to
Um,
bring it up.
but you couldn't do that in every state. So we had
Mm,
to make sure that this was a state where it was legal. So that's not like ancient history. So a lot of the older stories have a lot of magical instruction embedded in them. If the occult detectives, what are they doing? Both books have a Dion Fortune story in them. And, she went on to write nonfiction.
mhm.
But at the time, this is how people shared occult knowledge. Fairy tales also. I've got a big section on fairy tales in my Encyclopedia of Witchcraft. I mean, some fairy tales are just, oh, and she was rescued by the prince. But a lot of fairy tales look for all the iron. They wore iron shoes, they wore an iron hat. There's a lot of embedded magical instruction from a time when you couldn't call somebody up like I did with 5,000 spells. At the end of the book, when I was very close to 5,000, but I mean, I was calling everybody. If you knew me, I'd be calling you up going, give me a spell, give me a spell. We have to create another spell. So, but you couldn't do that. I mean, you could be arrested, you could die. Your children could be taken away. My ex-husband used to threaten me. I mean, this is so, I mean, my lifetime, when he would get mad at me, I mean, before he was my ex, I'm going to tell the court that you're a witch and take your kids. I mean, and I'm not saying this so people feel sorry for me, but I
No,
mean,
but it's a again
it's a
very
thing.
sobering fucking thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. See, now I can say that because I didn't say weird shit before because I wasn't sure I was allowed to say it.
oh, you can curse like a motherfucking sailor up in this piece.
Good.
Uh, bring
Because
it
it
all
comes out of my
day.
mouth sometimes. I work retail, it comes out of my mouth. But yeah, no, I mean this is the reality for a lot of people right now. There are people in bad marriages or who can't leave home or who can't do stuff because or they're afraid to wear their pentacle out of their clothing, whatever that is. You can wear a fig hand, no one knows what that is. That's a safe amulet. But
Telling you, I'm gonna find them.
yeah.
I'm gonna make that happen. I want to
I
sell
I
them.
the
I
one
want
I
one.
have a couple. The one that I wear most frequently, I bought at Pantheacon. Laura
Okay.
Tempest Zakroff and I bought the same one independently. Like, we didn't know we bought the same one, but we bought the same one. So, that's a test.
Adorable.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute.
Next time I come on, I'll wear it. You have to remind
Yes,
me, but in
yes, yes,
August,
I
I'll wear
will.
it. Yeah.
I like that you said next time.
Well, August, our class.
Right, but that's a class,
Oh, okay.
so you're saying you'll come back on the show
Oh,
again.
oh, yeah, definitely.
Excellent. Stop, crazy. Shh. She gets a little anxious. Ugh. And
Well, you should
and
be
I try
paying
to be
attention to her.
what's that?
You should be paying attention to her, not
Oh,
me.
yeah. Oh, yeah. She's got that's because the thing is she was outside, but she can hear me talking. She's like, "Why? What are you doing? You doing something without me? What's going on?"
Who's there?
But my other one, she's just laying under the table, sweet as can be. She's fine. You
I
may
had
have
a
heard her
cat
licking
who
herself
loved
earlier.
sitting on tarot cards. Like, you'd be trying to do a reading, and the cat would just fling herself down. And she's like a fat cat, so she just covered all the
Just moving the cards out of the way. I'm gonna lay here, right here.
yeah, her throne of cards.
Go find your toy. Where's your toy? Go get your toy. Go get it. I try to do my show on a night when nobody's home, right? Because a
But the
lot of
dogs
people
are
live
home.
here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but that means that I have to control these two. Because if my daughter's here, I'd be just like, take her away. But there's nobody here to take her away. Stop. Please stop. Shh. I'm
You know,
talking to Judika Illes. How do you not realize that this is
I
important?
I I love them, so it doesn't, I used to live in Hoboken, New Jersey, and the there was a lot of apartments, but there was a house, and one of the neighbors had a Malamute that they put out in the backyard, and the dog would, if anybody knows Malamutes, they kind of
She's half.
howl. Are you kidding?
She's half Malamute.
Oh, wow. Well, a lot of the neighbors complained, but I didn't care. I was just happy to hear the dog, so it's all good.
When she howls, it's my
Yes.
favorite. And so
Yeah,
I
me
won't
too.
I won't realize there's a siren until I hear
Yes.
her howling. And then I can
Yes.
realize that she's harmonizing with the
Well,
fire
that's what this
trucks.
dog would do outside in the
Okay.
yard by himself all day. I think
I love that. The
I love that
howling I'm
too.
down
See,
with.
that's the witch thing. They can howl all night.
I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the other thing she does, which is terrible, is the whining. Oh, like when she's not, she there's nothing wrong. She's just bored. And so when she's bored, she emits this high pitched thing, and I'm just like, oh God, you gotta stop it. It's awful.
Entertain me, mom.
What are you? She's whining at me. What are you doing? Why aren't you? She found her toy. She got her turtle now. We're all good. Oh, she's crazy. All right, Peggy says, is the class in August online? It
Yes,
is. And you know what? I'm going to post a link to it right here because I
because Peggy and everybody
will.
else, I'm not ready to come outside my house yet.
Yes, I understand. October is when we're going for it. Um, and I also reserve the right to say no if something else should have happened, right?
Yeah.
Because who knows, man? I don't even want
Well,
to talk about variants and stuff. It freaks me
I
out too much.
I work a lot. I was in some ways I was living like this before the pandemic, just the rest of you are now living like me. I work a lot. I have my own writing. I work on a lot of other people's books. I read cards. I have kids. I, make a vain attempt sometimes to clean my house. Um, so I work a lot. So for me, I've been having my groceries delivered. I
Hmm.
don't know.
Hmm.
And I do. I have the Scorpio moon. I'm, you know, I'm an introvert I'm a friendly introvert, but, so,
Wait, so what's your son?
Cancer. It's
Oh,
my season
you're definitely an introvert.
because yeah, Aquarius rising. I have all the
Oh, well,
yeah,
Aquarius isn't so that's where you get your outward stuff,
yeah,
I'd say. Yeah, right?
yeah. I have, Jupiter and I have Jupiter and Sagittarius, and I think,
That
because
makes
I
a
get
lot
a
of
lot
sense
of
too.
astrologers are sometimes puzzled because I mean, this year to the contrary, I really love to travel. I used to be when they told me publishing was dead, I became a travel consultant, and I love to travel. And I think and they're going, How are you a Cancer who likes to go out so much? Well, I think that's the Jupiter in Sagittarius.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
the Aquarius too. I think that
yeah,
rising could
yeah.
definitely, I don't
But
know.
it's a facade.
It is right, right. It's something you're compelled to keep up though, right?
Yeah,
I have, astrology has been something that I had never really delved into other than was when it was needed for magical work specifically.
yeah.
But lately, like the
Oh,
past
astrology
two
is so
years, three,
interesting.
oh my God.
Yeah,
I had, so a good friend of mine, um, Chandra, she is the one who teaches our astrology classes when we were having them in person. Um, and she was always that person at the bar who was like, she knows your chart and she's like, that's your that's your this and this. And I'm like, shut up. Okay. Like, stop calling me out on shit.
but
I don't.
it's true. It's true.
Oh well. So I booked her to teach classes,
Yeah,
and then I'm required to take those classes because I have to be there. So
right.
I sit through them, and after
Yeah,
sitting through them, I'm just like, oh my God. Oh, I have to look into more. So then I read the Channing Nicholas book, which I carried around with me for like 2 weeks straight, just, plowing through that.
yeah,
And now I'm like a mini analyst to my friends. I'm like, okay, so what now? What is it? Because that sounds like a thing. Now I've turned into Chandra,
yeah. No, I think it's such a
but I love it.
yeah. Me too.
I love knowing the reasons. I love understanding more. I
Yeah.
never realized that it was such a channel to understanding better, more
I
thoroughly.
I I wouldn't call myself an astrologer, but when I do readings, I almost always volunteer to cast a chart for
Mhm.
people
Mhm.
because it's always helpful. It's always helpful. It helps me know who it helps all of us. And I mean, for people who think they're not interested in astrology, even if all you do is study your own chart for the rest of your life, and you can, it's so
Yeah.
useful, so beneficial.
If you think you're not interested, it's because you don't understand it enough.
If you think you're not interested, maybe you haven't read the right books or had it explained by the right person,
And
because
I feel like that's
it's
where I was.
interesting. It's
Yeah.
it's not. I mean, it's actually very funny you say that, and we're talking about this because as a child, what did I want to be when I grew up? At one point I did want to be as an astrologer, but I mean, I am from the days, the pre-computer days, and I am not a math lover, and logarithms, and I thought I was gonna have to learn all this math to do it, and I ended up doing other stuff instead. And
Mhm.
of course, because as a lousy psychic who didn't realize that, someday, decades later, there would be computer programs who would do all of this for me.
Oh, wait, what's your birthday real quick? Hold on. I'm just gonna
Phone app.
do you know your birth time? Because we're gonna need that. Call your mom. Call your mom.
Yeah, 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 no, but I mean, it is so interesting.
I'm in love with it now. And so Christina says, I want to learn more. I mean, my
There's
go-to
so
book
many good
right
books.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's so many books. My go-to book right now is the Channing Nicholas because it really helped me understand myself. Like, just it's like a choose your own adventure thing. She explains how to read your thing, and then and I sat for 3 hours with a friend of mine, and we just kept reading back and forth,
yeah.
what ours was and stuff. Um, but that's mine. So what do you tell people for astrology if they want to start?
I tell them to read everything. I tell them, especially online, to be careful not to read just one thing
Hmm.
because astrologers have biases. And like, there are people who don't, it's hard to believe, but there are people who don't like Scorpios, you know, and so they'll say something negative. Or, so you have to some people are very gloom and doom and some people are not. And so it is good to get a wide variety. I edited a really beautiful book. It is called Midlife is Not a Crisis, and I don't remember the subtitle, which has astrology in it, by Virginia Bell, who is a wonderful astrologer. And it is all the transits from about age 27 to the third Saturn return, which people are living longer. I when my mother was alive, I would take her to all. she was in rehab centers, and I'd meet all these 104-year-old women, and a couple, the men are lagging behind a little bit, but the men too. Um, and they were still sharp and interesting and funny. So if you're 50, barring extenuating circumstances, maybe you've only lived half your life. Which at my age now, I'm looking at a birthday in like a week. um at my age now, in my childhood, I mean, the numbers are kind of scary. This is like, retirement age. I mean, not that I'm ever going to retire, but um, but back in the day. So, but not anymore. Not anymore. Like, people are younger longer.
Yeah.
So,
Oh
Virginia
yeah.
Bell's book, it's fairly easy to read. It's partly, she
I
describes
need to
her
grab a
own
pen
transits.
because I need to write this down. I grab a pen. Hold on one sec. I can't believe I don't have a
Well,
pen.
and she's had this fascinating life because she was an actress for a while, and she owned one of the first, if not the first, health food restaurants in New York City, and then she became an astrologer. And so it's a gentle read. She takes you through all the transits by describing herself and just sort of knowing what's coming up. I like that book because I one of the things that I find comforting about astrology, and sometimes people will come to me for a reading and all these terrible things have happened to them. It's been a terrible 6 months, all these disasters. And I ask them, have you spoken with an astrologer? Because you should know whether, before you jump to the conclusion that it's a curse, you should
Oh,
really know whether it's a transit. Because I mean, I can tell you, I've had some transits, those Uranus transits. Those There's some scary shit. Um, or your Saturn return. The Little Book of Saturn is another one by Eliza Einhorn. I see. I know the books I edited, um, but that's very specifically about the impact of Saturn and the Saturn returns, and that's a big deal. Like, that's something. we
okay.
could
So
do a
when
show. We could do a show on that. Just
this is much deeper than what I know. So what
Okay, so I will
is
tell you
that?
what a Saturn return is.
Okay.
So my birthday is July 3rd. Why is it my birthday on July 3rd? Because it takes the Earth, every year, 365 days later, the Earth passes the point where I was born, the day. But and your chart is like a snapshot. Like, at the moment you were born, somebody went outside and took a snapshot of the heavens, and it's still. But actually, it's like a freeze frame. But actually, everything's moving,
Mhm.
and they're all moving at a different pace. And so you have Mercury, which is a zippy little planet, a- and then you have Jupiter, which takes 12 years to cycle. So,
Mhm.
the Chinese zodiac with the 12 signs, the 12 animals, it's a
Oh.
Jupiter cycle. And Jupiter is the planet of luck and good fortune. Saturn is a big, lumbering planet. And for those of us who live in places with trains, it takes about 29-ish years to come back to where it was when you were born. That's the return. It returns to the same spot. It takes about 18 months for it to stop impacting you. But it's not like a light switch where, like, we're going to turn it on and we're going to turn it off. It is like you are standing, if you are standing on the train platform waiting for a train, you can feel it coming. It
Mm.
starts
Hmm.
rumbling and shaking. And and then the train comes and you get on, and if you are like me and you have sometimes commuted on a New York City subway and you have raced down the steps to get to your platform, you know you have just missed the train because you can still feel that shaking. It reverberates. It's like a gong. The sound reverberates. And Saturn is the planet of challenges. Jupiter is where your luck is sort of natural. I loved, Jupiter and Sagittarius. I love to travel. All the things with Sagittarius and Jupiter, they're easy for me. But
Mhm.
Saturn is where you have to work to be successful. So roughly, why is it so hard traditionally to turn 30 as opposed to 40, because that's your first Saturn return. 60, which used to be retirement age, second Saturn return. And up until recently, not a lot of people had a third Saturn return, but
Mhm.
roughly 90. And it is a time that brings change. It is a time where you look at yourself in the mirror and you go, why am I doing this? Like, I don't want this job. I don't want to be married to this person. I don't, why didn't I become a fortune teller? And
COVID did that to a lot of people. Just like swept them, like gave them
yes,
the same fucking energy. Like, hey, guess what?
yes,
I mean, I'm sure you know so many people who are like, I hate my fucking job. I don't
yeah.
want to. I don't
Well,
want to do this
I
anymore.
think
Like,
that, obviously 600,000 people died in the US. And
right.
so there's that human tragedy. And then the health tragedy with people
Yes, and
who it's been
yeah.
impacted, and the economic tragedy. I mean, but there's a spiritual aspect to COVID. And I think that's something that we're not dealing with as a society. I think there is that presence that, I mean, it is a challenging thing. Why are you going to this crap job that you don't want? That doesn't even pay you and they're mean to you, but you're showing up every day and you don't even like it.
Mhm.
Or maybe they're nice to you and they are paying you, but you hate it. And I
You don't like
think,
what you do. It's not fulfilling.
yeah,
Your soul's
yeah.
slowly dying while you're
Or you
sitting in a
got this,
goddamn cubicle,
the scary boss, or whatever it is.
or because you
So
you want to spend your time doing something else. You
yeah.
know what you want to do, but
So
you're
the
not doing
Saturn return, it's just, as with these experiences, and I think that is something that is very characteristic of COVID.
it. Oh my
Um,
gosh.
I I I I don't know, I actually was teaching classes about what, when it began, when I first started these Zoom classes about, magic in this era. Um, People got mad at me because, this is all supposed well, because why are we talking about magic when there's science? But, you know, life is full of science and
Are you
magic.
kidding me?
No,
Wait, what?
no. Oh,
Those two
no.
things coexist for
No.
us.
Oh, no, magical people were annoyed with me. Life is short. I don't, I'm not,
Okay.
y- you know, but, I- but it's
Crazy.
because one of the ways I started writing 5,000 spells, I was teaching when Magic When You Need It, which was first called Emergency Magic, was first published.
That
I
makes
was
sense.
teaching classes at the Learning Annex in New York. Um, and I was teaching people, they gave us an art class with sinks. And I was teaching people how to make magical oils and magical powders. And it was fun and it was great. And people would come, these classes were sold out. There was like standing room. And people would come and they would do like the exercises and pay for the materials fees. And it was, I thought they were happy. But as they were leaving, people, it's always as people are leaving in this kind of
Oh
business,
my gosh. Would you stop?
people would
She's looking.
lines of people would form, and they would say, thank you very much for the class, I had fun, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here because my daughter's boyfriend has an illness and they can't get a diagnosis, or I've tried all the medication and it won't work. And it was a lot of healing stuff. And do I know what they could do? And it wasn't an aspect of magic that had particularly interested me up until that point. Um, I, I go to herbalists, but I wasn't thinking of it magically.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started looking because these people ask me, you know, I'm a smartass and I don't like to not have an answer. Mercury and Leo,
I
I've got to be a smart girl.
same.
Oh wow, what's your son?
Leo.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. So you have a birthday coming too.
Yeah.
Yes, Mercury and Leo. I don't like to not have an answer. So
I
I started, right? Well, I
I've
mean,
researched
it's
I've
considered
researched you for weeks.
yeah, but Mercury and Leo is not considered a particularly good placement. And
Really?
I know what, no, because we care about whether people think we're smart or not. We actually
You
care.
know what? I don't like this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, no, 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 but well, we are smart, so it doesn't matter. Like, if they can't recognize it, that's their fault. But I started researching, and that's why there's this whole, it was one of the first sections I wrote in 5,000 Spells. There's a whole section on healing spells and different, and whether as an alternative or as a complement. And and disease demons, and they're so smallpox spirits, and they're so interesting. And having come from that, having that background now, when the coronavirus started, you know, there's a real I feel it. There is a presence out there. And it's not just the illness. Do you see how agitated people are getting and how angry and the violence? I
I had a
think
fight in a post office.
it's in the air.
It is. Everybody is so ready to fight. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's provocative.
It it is.
Yeah.
Which actually, I love that word very much. I gotta get a toy real quick, but because it's it's a good and bad word, right?
Yeah.
It's a neutral, right?
Right, right. Yeah,
Provocative.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it made you feel something, right? I don't know if you liked it or not, but
Well, I
it
think you have
worked.
to be self-aware. You have to be self-aware
Well,
because
stop.
if you
No.
know, you need to know whether you should be getting into the fight or not.
Yes. Yes.
You know, are you getting into the fight because it's justified or because you need to be in a fight, or are you getting into a fight because we're all crazy?
Because we're all on the edge, man.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
like all on the edge.
yeah, definitely.
6 feet. I said 6 feet. There's
Yeah.
actually a line on the ground. You can just stand on the other side of that. That'd be cool, man.
Put on your mask.
That was literally my fight in the post office. I had to say those words, and he wasn't wearing a mask. I'm just like, can you just, if you're not going to wear a mask, that's fine, but also back the up, man. Yeah.
Well, you know, a lot of pushing and shoving in the airplanes. It's I mean, some of it is it's activating inner anger and inner anxiety, but
Sure. It's
it's
triggering you.
activating. It is
Yeah.
being activated.
It's like, how fast do you go there? Right? Like, how close is it to the surface for you
Yeah.
when you get tested? For a lot of people, it was way closer than I think other people expected when they confronted them.
Well,
Right?
you know, the masks. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to, store owners, who are, you know, if I tell someone to put on a mask, and maybe I need to tell them to put on a mask because maybe one of my employees or another customer is immunocompromised, and so they really need to have people wear a mask. But are they going to shoot me? Because I don't want them to shoot me. I mean, I mean, this is not, you know, and you think, I mean, you have to wear shoes. You have to wear, you know, items of clothing. Um,
You gotta wear underwear no matter how many ghosts are around. When you go out, you're just gonna have to put them on. Like, like you gotta have some covering down there.
well, I
You
mean,
can't just be
you
all
can't, you know,
hanging
you're
out.
not, if you think you're walking into a supermarket without, you know, wearing just a towel that slips, security is going to come over.
We are allowed to enact some standards for this sort of thing.
So
Oh.
why the mask? I mean, you get to play like cops and robbers.
No, the amount of people who had bandanas on, and I'm dying because they look like train robbers, old timey outlaws.
People tell me to smile a lot, and I like the masks. Nobody tells me to smile. In fact, I have to be when in the beginning I had to realize that if I'm wearing a mask and I'm wearing sunglasses, they don't know
I
if I'm
mean,
smiling because people would react to you like with anger. But but I'm, you know, look at me. I laugh all the time. I'm not a hostile person particularly. So I would, you know, take off the sunglasses so they could see that my eyes were smiling, you know.
no, look, I'm happy, really, because you can, like, there's like
Yeah.
smiling and not smiling. You can still see that I'm sick of your shit without
Right.
seeing my mouth.
They don't need to see your mouth.
Can say it all right here. But you know what? I have been accused and complimented, but definitely pointed out to me that I smile at every person I encounter. I
Yeah.
can't help it. I'm just one of those people. I think it's because of the Leo thing, because I care about people
I
liking
think
me
we're
and
also
shit.
trained as women.
Yes.
We have to be
Um,
nice.
but I just want people, I don't know, I kind of want them to see a friendly face, which is why normally I get asked where things are in stores. Because if I'm in an aisle and another person's in an aisle, if if we're facing each other,
Mhm.
I'll look them in the eye and smile,
Yeah, me too.
because whatever, I'm a human being, they're a human
Me
being.
too.
Hey, hope you're having a good day. But
No,
that's
it's
when
very automatic for me.
they're like, oh my god, do you know where the markers are?
But, it's really funny you say that because I think the picture you used for me, the photograph, is with the geraniums or the azaleas there. That is from a photo shoot. It's in a book now. You can buy it called Major Arcana,
Oh,
by a photographer, Francis F. Denny.
her
And
name came up in the description of the photo. Okay.
yes, yes, well, I try to give the photo credits. I've been so lucky to work with wonderful photographers, and, she traveled around America, with me in the New York area, but also in California, and I think in New Orleans, Salem. She traveled around and she took pictures of witches in America,
I
and
remember this.
it's
I remember
beautiful.
this.
But I will tell you one of her we
Yes.
showed up in whatever we wanted to wear. It was an out she wanted to use natural lighting. My picture is at the Greenwood Cemetery in Brooklyn,
Mm,
but her
mm.
one instruction was don't smile. She wanted us to have just to have a neutral expression. So no frowning either, just a neutral
Yeah,
expression.
just
And I can't speak for anyone, it was very hard for me. I smile so automatically.
you're like,
It's
you
just
have to not talk to me or look at me if you want me to not smile.
I had to really I was constantly smiling. I mean, we were there for a while. I, um,
I
it
get
was
it.
very difficult. It was very you become aware of how much you smile. And when I went to see her exhibit when it was in New York City, and you walked in and the photos were very large. And so you're surrounded, by photos of all the witches and none of us are smiling. And it was so profound. I mean, she knew, you know, for me it was like an exercise, but she
That was
knew.
her vision, that
Yeah,
they're
she
not
had
here
the
to
vision.
please you.
Yes. Yes, it was really profound. And
Oh,
my picture, I'm not looking directly at the camera,
right.
but a lot of them are. So it's they're looking at you.
Do you mind if I show this picture?
No, no.
Because I have it.
No, I felt so blessed to be asked to participate.
Let me just upload this real quick because I have it like on quick because I just made that the thing today, so it's right here. uh, this is the picture we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
This is beautiful. I
yeah.
love this picture.
She literally I don't know if you can see, she
Yeah,
wove my hair into the
yeah.
plants,
I noticed this
and then
today
she
as
had
I
to
was
unweave me
posting it.
after so I could move.
You're like, stuck, little help now. I love
Yeah,
that picture. So
yeah.
that's Francis Denny's book, right?
Frances Denny, yeah. And I mean, it's a commercially available book. You can,
Mhm.
you know,
See, now I
whatever,
have to track
yeah.
down the publisher and I have to open up an account with them and they're going to go in my random
Put it
file.
in the random file.
Whoever, Simon and Schuster is a huge
Yeah,
organization and they're literally in random file.
yeah, yeah, but for witchcraft books, I mean, in America, who is it? Weiser, Llewellyn, Inner Traditions,
Sterling,
Sterling? I mean, there are a
uh,
couple, but I mean, the specialists, and I mean,
specialists,
Wise
it's Wiser and Llewellyn. Like,
well, Weiser's been around for over 6 decades now, because I was there for the 60th birthday party. Llewellyn, I think, is longer. Um, there are a couple, and there are publishers in Britain. There are a couple publishers
oh,
that are committed to doing esoteric publishing.
it's
It doesn't matter
gorgeous.
if it's in fashion or it's not in fashion.
Gorgeous stuff, like really, like almost like short run, hard to get a hold of, like,
Yeah.
in like goat leather type gorgeousness stuff. Oh,
Oh my God. Yes, those
Scarlet
also.
Imprint is doing amazing
Scarlet
things.
Imprint is
What's the
beautiful.
other one? Starts with an H.
Fulgur, like, I have lust for Fulgur,
Folger? I don't
Fulgur.
I don't know
I
them.
just bought the Lenora Carrington Tarot, which is
Okay.
incredible. Fulgur, Fulgur, and Scarlet
That's how I
Imprint.
spelled it. Yeah.
Hadean Press, which
Oh,
does little
that's
books
what I
for
was thinking of with the H. Yeah.
yeah, they do
Mm,
great stuff.
yes. Yeah. I'm always looking for those kind of publishers too,
Yeah,
because
Troy
I
Books. Troy Books also.
Troy. So, okay. So Llewellyn was distributing for Troy
I don't know.
because they were carrying all of the Gemma Gary stuff.
I I I don't
And
I
then
don't
now and then suddenly like they don't have Devil's Dozen anymore. Like
I
it's
don't
just
know.
not
But
okay.
you can
All
get
right.
it
All
from
right.
Troy, and they just well, I don't know if you want a wholesale, that I don't know. I only know the behind the scenes stuff from Weiser. That's the only publisher. I'm not privy to anything else.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't know. I thought maybe you had an in. I don't know.
No,
Um,
I don't know. I don't know.
I
And I'm not, and I wouldn't be authorized to speak about anybody else anyway. So
I've been meaning to tell. So one of the things. God, I'm stumbling like crazy. One of the things that I wanted to bring up is that I was watching a documentary on Netflix or Prime about old booksellers.
I
You know,
haven't seen it. I heard it's great.
there's a part where you see occult books and it's just Samuel Weiser books. And I was like, oh, I had a whole like sit up gasp moment. I was like, oh my God, this is so
Well,
exciting.
that's how we started.
I know. And I love
There,
that.
I mean, it's so sad because I'm a native New Yorker, and I remember how many bookstores there used to be. New York, just
That's what this whole
real
documentary is
estate,
about.
the prices. Oh, Scribner's books where,
Yeah.
the time I was almost mugged, I ran inside. I mean, I have stories about all this stuff, you
Whoa.
know, and Samuel White, there used to be on 4th
Come
Avenue,
on, baby. Come on.
downtown, there was something called Book Row, and they were all um, used book vendors, used booksellers. You can still, if you go to the Strand is just on 12th Street. You can get, you can get new books, but
Hmm.
they've got rows and rows of old and often out of print books. And Samuel Weiser was one of those booksellers. And at some point, Samuel Weiser, the actual man, Samuel Weiser, noticed that occultists like books and they were willing to buy books and they were searching for books, and I think that's true of the metaphysical community.
Oh, yeah.
We, food or books, I don't know. Some weeks it's books. Um, and so he began to specialize. And then after a while, there were books that were in the public domain that were out of print, and they began to publish their own editions. And then they started with his son Donald Weiser. Um, they founded a publishing company, which neither of them are with us any longer, but um, the Red Wheel Weiser people then purchased Weiser.
Hmm.
Um, they're still the antiquarian. If you look at Weiser Books Antiquarian, you can find great um, sort of specialty, antique, and vintage and out of print Weiser books.
I didn't
There's a
know that.
story Maine. Um, yeah, no, and then we have this publishing house that is. But I mean, I think that the important thing here is that there are in general, small companies, we're all small publishers.
Hmm.
It's a niche audience who are committed to this topic. And even if it's not in style, even if there's no, you know, the celebrities aren't into it anymore, we will all continue to be committed to it because this is what we do. And so, please don't download free books that, it's theft. And if you can't afford a book, you can get it from a library, or books go on sale, or this, all kinds of stuff. But when you click on a free download, first of all, half of them are viruses and you don't know what you're getting.
Hmm.
Second of all, it's intellectual property. And it's just if publishers that are already small and are challenged can't even sell their books, they won't be able to publish anymore. So it's like making something go extinct.
Hmm.
So, there's that very beautiful synergistic triangle of a publisher and an author and a bookseller. And ideally we all support each other and the readers. So, it's good to support your local bookstores, good to support your local publish, the occult publishers, good to support your authors.
Can you read like on a tablet or like on a computer? Is that comfortable for you?
Yeah,
Really? I still
because
can't do that.
it wasn't originally.
I would assume with the volume you have to deal with it. But you oh my god. Oh
Well,
my
first
gosh.
of all, manuscripts are not usually submitted on paper anymore, and you
Hmm.
shouldn't because paper manuscripts get lost. So I have to read manuscripts because
Maybe.
send your manuscripts in Word documents, please. Times times font 12 point, like, so your poor editor won't go blind. Um,
This is the editor of Wiser. Can you please just listen to her? She knows what she's talking about.
yeah, double space. I mean,
Double space. So Times New Roman 12, you said?
yeah, yeah,
Double space, got it.
yeah. No PDFs. Like, people send PDFs to make it look pretty. I don't need it to look pretty. I just wanna read it and be able to fix your typos. Because if you send it to me in a PDF, I can't fix your spelling mistakes.
Nope.
Um,
Can't edit
but,
that stuff. Oh my gosh.
yeah, no, I can because I used to commute so much. I used to commute on, like, buses, and I don't really
Yeah.
love to drive. I only drive locally, so I take a
Mhm,
lot of public transportation.
mhm.
I take buses, and I take trains, and they turn the lights off all the time, and
Oh
it
my
is
God.
right?
You're
They're always
right.
turning
Oh,
the
you're
big light
right.
off,
I never thought about
and
that.
it is torture for me to sit on a bus and not be able to read. So, I learned how to read on something that's backlit,
Right.
you
That makes
know?
sense. Your
Yeah.
points make a lot of sense.
Ah, and well, I read all I mean, I do both, and if it's a beautiful book, I'll buy the paper one and maybe also, the digital.
I love
Well, because the
paper.
digital's
And
easy to find, like, if you have to find something, it's
right,
very
you
easy
can
to
just
find.
find it. Like you can
Yeah,
search for it, right?
and
That's a good point.
I'm an insomniac, and I don't sleep, and that way but I don't like to lie, I don't like to lie in bed and be quiet and, like, just lie there. So it's like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, I'll just read on my phone.
Yeah. I feel like I have to I have such a hard time. So I sometimes I get sent manuscripts so I can read them by the time the book comes out so I can interview.
Digital, right?
What's that?
Digital?
Yeah, yeah. And so I'll print it out. Just
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
do it,
yeah.
man.
No, I mean, I send books out for blurbs when it's, almost time to be published. I mean, I
Mhm.
have people who'll tell me, "I can't read it this way, you have to get," and we'll print out a copy if we have to, you know?
Yeah, I'll just if
Um,
you send me the thing, I'll just print it out here and because like my copy of Do I Have to Wear Black is just a bunch of printed pages.
did you ever read, it's not a witchcraft book per se, The Alphabet and the Goddess, or The Goddess and the Alpha I think it's The Alphabet and the Goddess.
No.
It's a very interesting premise. The premise of the book is that
Yeah, I'm
literacy.
sorry. I have to let her out. I can't.
Yeah, yeah, I'm just gonna tell people about the book.
Please
You
tell
you
people
go
about
do
the book.
what you
And
have
I
to
can
do.
still hear you. So,
The premise of the book is that literacy and different being literate or being non-literate, they impact the brain in different ways. And that, civilization was originally non-literate, there was no writing, and that with the transition, and of course, at an early time when very few people were literate, there were goddess worship was common, and that as literacy becomes the norm, women, they're all it's just basically pointing out that at the same time in history, women become oppressed, and deities are um it's basically the change in brain chemistry and the way in looking at things. I I caught errors in history. I have a good memory, and I caught errors, and I know that I caught some errors, so I have to believe there were errors I didn't catch because, I studied British history. I didn't study maybe other histories, vaguely know some history, but I don't necessarily know others. So there I imagine there are things that I didn't catch, and so
mm,
I say it with caution. There are mistakes, but it was food for thought, and the reason I say this is because it's a change in brain chemistry. And I think the difference between reading on paper in a book and reading on a screen digitally, I think there's also a change in brain chemistry. I think we see things differently. Our brains are kind of rewired a little with the way. So it's just something to think about. I think there's a reason why, like, reading on a in a book is just it's so different from reading because it's literally like a mental wiring.
it's a comfort thing for me.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, just the feel of it in my hands, the uh I get um you know how when you hit that spot with meditation
Yeah,
where you get in,
yeah.
uh I get that with books. I get in. And but with reading on it, it's like I never quite get there.
You can turn the pages. And
Kills me.
sometimes when you're reading, your readings, like I read mysteries, and I read something and I go, "Oh, there was a clue a couple pages back, but I didn't know it was a clue yet." And I just want to flip back a couple pages, but I don't want to lose it's a very tactile thing. You can't do that with a digital book. When you lose your place, you really lose your place.
I know exactly what you're talking about. So
Yeah,
it's like, okay, so here I am, right? But I'm gonna go
yeah,
back here. Okay, so I've got
yes,
both my fingers in this. I know
yes,
exactly where
exactly.
I'm actually holding it where I stopped reading.
Right. And then you can go back and forth, you can, comparison, and you
Hmm.
can't do that with a digital. But it, I unfortunately, as I have gotten older and I, I read a lot,
You
I
have
write a
to.
lot.
It's your
Well, but
job.
it's a visual thing. I used to have 20/20 vision, and now I need light. Like I should probably
Mhm.
walk around with like one of those miner's caps. I can't read without good light from a book. And so if it's and I don't live in a sunny house. So if I am in a sunny spot, I always grab the book because it's so much more satisfying to read on paper. But if I didn't have those backlit digital books, I would be a sad girl.
I know I understand your what you're saying about eyesight though.
Yeah.
I've gotten to a point where I need so I've had bifocals for a couple of years, and I
Yeah.
hate reading in bifocals because I have to tilt my head back to see it.
Right.
I want to I want to look at it,
Yeah,
right?
I have
And so
readers.
I've
Yeah.
always had I've always been able to do this, but I don't know if you were watching me before, but I was looking at something in the book and I'm all like, where how far away do I need to get to see this? Because I need
Yeah.
readers now. I need to
Well,
actually I'm gonna go buy some cute little cat-eye just reading glasses.
yeah, yeah. I mean, my kids, wear glasses all the time, and it's like second nature for them. But for me, I put them on and off, and I'm always losing them. It's, like, really bad.
There's an
I do
embarrassing thing
have
around the shop. I
yeah.
leave my glasses
Oh,
everywhere
yeah, yeah,
because I
or
take
they're
them
on
off
my
to
head and
read.
I don't realize they're
Yeah.
there.
I take them off to read and they'll
Yeah.
bring them to me. Abigail the other day, she was like, "This is the most mom thing you do." She brought me my glasses. I don't know. I can't know what to say.
Yeah,
But yeah, because I'm always taking them off because I think I can read better without them,
yeah.
and I can't anymore.
No, me too. I know. I know. But I still think I can.
Yeah.
And I can, like, it's summer now, and if I put a chair outside and I sit in the sun, it's 2020 again. But, the second I come inside, and it's small print, I'm like, "It's over."
I have two magnifying glasses within reach at my desk.
Me too. I have a necklace with a magnifying glass on it. It's like, quickly.
Sometimes I'm like, well, I don't know what that says. Oh yeah, there you go. I got I got you now.
I probably should get a prescription for glasses, but that means I have to get close to somebody and I'm not ready.
Wednesday says that we need glasses
I
chains, ladies.
know. I know.
We've
You're
officially
right.
gotten to glasses chains. God damn it.
I got a chain for masks, so why
My
not?
daughter did that. My oldest,
Yeah,
Scarlett, she because one day she was wearing, I'm like, "Are you wearing a glasses chain?" She was like,
yeah,
it's my mask chain." Like, you're
yeah,
a genius.
yeah. Well, because that way you can just lower it and not
You don't
have
have
to
to wear it
take
on
it
your
off.
chin or anything, which I hate.
No.
You can just, yeah, it's just down here.
My kids are very critical of me. I'm told I don't do the nose wire well enough.
Me
So this
too.
is like it's just simpler.
Oh, yes.
Nobody's a genius in their own house.
No, no, trust
Oh,
me,
good. I love
I am
that.
not the
That
smartest
sounds
person
great.
here. They'll all tell you that.
Yeah,
Wednesday says, "No shame, I have 2 pairs of chains with cute little filigree
I
bats."
love bats.
That's adorable.
Yeah,
Because you can, even if it's, you know, mundane fashion, you can always do something fun with it.
right.
I knew a girl a long time ago. Her name is Rachel. She's a wonderful human being. She lives in Texas now. She taught me the lesson just by being her. She didn't actually teach it to me. I just was around her enough. The lesson that everything can be adorned. Everything.
Listen,
Everything you do could be made a little more custom for you, you know?
and to think of masks and our pandemic clothing as ritual clothing. It is ritual. I mean, I have masks with amulets. I have kamsas and
Hmm.
ankhs, and I see there are goddess ones
I have
because
Baphomets.
yeah, yeah,
My
absolutely.
Baphies.
It's not just, I mean, it's aesthetic
Hmm.
and it's protection,
Hmm.
but there's also that spiritual and magical protection. Why not go for everything?
Yeah, yeah, it can be adorned and it can be magical, which I
Right.
feel like is when you take the time to actually make something more custom
Yeah.
and more aesthetically pleasing to you, just whether because that's how you want people to see you or because that's what you actually, that's what you want to look at, taking that time is magical. It is a
Yeah.
beautiful,
Yeah.
it's it's blessing that thing,
Well, you're
right?
imbuing it with that special magic power.
Yes.
And that's, or to do it for someone else as a gift. That's really a
Ah,
lovely thing to do.
yes, it is. It really is. But yes, adorning things,
Yeah.
making things special, custom.
Empowering them.
Love that.
And you make people feel loved that way.
You do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
that's magic.
And that, what fuels magic? Love.
Yeah.
Love is the magic, man. I'm trying to think of what else. Okay, I'm just we're getting close to 11 o'clock, and I know that you've got midsummer things to
Yeah.
do. So I want to see if any of the questions I had were actually more interesting than anything we've talked about. you know. um, let's see. Now most of this I think we actually covered. Um, what are you excited about right now?
You know, I, I mean, I'm excited about books. You know, I haven't had a new book of my own for a couple years, so that's exciting. And this book actually was originally scheduled Daily Magic, which will be published at the end of August. It was supposed to be published before the pandemic, and then the pandemic. Um, so I will be grateful to see it out. And I I mean, I'm working on some amazing books. Harold Roth, who wrote The Witching Herbs, will have a new book coming out, and
That's
Rachel
right.
Cull, and just S- uh, Stephanie Rosebird, and just there are great books coming out, and I I I go between excitement and apprehension. I think this is the new age. When we first went into quarantine, the song I always have like a song in my
Yeah,
head all the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
And it was the Velvet Underground New Age or the Rachel Sweet version. I would, going back and forth because I think this is it. This is the new age.
Hmm.
And it's very Aquarian. And I think I mean, look, look at that. I mean, can you imagine? We are miles apart and people are all around the world. Avi, I'm thinking about you. I was so happy. I was not expecting to see your name, Avi, and I met Avi in Glastonbury. And
Oh,
and
they say it's 4 a.m. where they are.
I so I'm not the only insomniac. But
No.
I mean, this year I have taken classes as a student. I took classes in London and in Berlin. I'm
Mm.
teaching a class for the Magical Women's Conference in August in London, but I'm not leaving home. And it's Star Trek. It's like, it's incredible. And then I'm apprehensive because I see, people, we are not at our best. We are being very cruel to each other and mean to each other
Right.
and hair trigger tempers um New York City, I am reminded a lot of the 70s and the 80s when I would not get on a subway. I don't know if I'd get on a subway today either, and not because of the pandemic, but because of my fellow riders.
Hmm.
I worked in Manhattan when Manhattan was scary.
Hmm.
So I recognize it. I've seen this before. So there are things that scare me, and cruelty to other people and desire to deprive other people of rights, that also, if you study history, and to be a magical practitioner, everything's got magic, you know. People ask me, like, where do I research? I read travel books, I read cookbooks, I read history books. You will find magic, and explicit magic. So not just, oh, you have to figure this out, like, and connect the dots, like explicit magic everywhere. It's everywhere. We are wired for it as a species. The earth is wired for it. And so, if you study any of this, what goes around comes around, and you start to say, oh, shit, that that wasn't good the first time, and it's not going to be good this time.
Oh,
So a
shit.
combination of excitement and apprehension.
Uh,
And I think there'll be different art forms,
oh,
because I think
yeah.
the way we have done, we're not going back. There's going to be a new normal, and we're a smart species.
Hmm.
And I don't know if I want to sit in a movie theater now, but we're still going to have movies, and we're still going to have, we will find an exciting new way to experience these things. And you know I mean, when my parents grew up, they didn't have phones. Phones were like exciting. And I mean, I grew up, I didn't have a computer. I mean, we didn't have, my children have always had computers. But their children are going to have stuff we can't even imagine. And
Right.
that's exciting. And
It
age
is
of Aquarius,
exciting.
it's the tech. We are going to come up with great tech.
I'm so thinking about people staying home, right? And this creating opportunities for people to stay home, right? All those memes about how many meetings could have been emails, right? You know what I love about it? I love that it has cut down the amount of people who are out. I love that traffic. There like 5 o'clock traffic in Columbus doesn't exist anymore. It's not a thing. There's rush hour is not a
Wow.
thing, and it's
Wow.
awesome.
Wow.
So that I've been super happy
Well,
about.
then why are we all working 9 to 5 anyway?
What?
Why do we
Because
all have to go to work at the same time and come home at the same time? Uh, you know, why do we all have to work the same Monday to Friday, 9 to 5? Um,
because we didn't know how it could be different, right?
because we didn't know, but now no, we didn't realize how it could be different, but now we know.
Now we know, and now it can be changed. Now there's
Right.
like
We're gonna do it better.
we're gonna do it better, and I hope so. I hope that's the
Yeah.
way that it goes. I hope that this.
Eventually it will.
I
I'm
hope that
sure.
no rush hour continues. I hope that
Yeah.
lesser people in movie theaters continues. I want there to be
Yes.
less crowds. I want it to be safer for me to go out because I hate crowds. Like,
Well, I'm from New York, and I don't always hate crowds. I mean, uh, Chinese New Year in Chinatown in New York City, you literally cannot move on the street.
I couldn't
Um,
handle it.
you cannot. You all move together like a snake. We all move. If you think you're going the other way, you're not, and it's something that can be
You're
very.
not. You're just not. I've been in
No, I mean,
shows like that. Yeah, where you are one sweaty body.
no, right, right. You're so packed in together. You're all, and of course you can't have someone panicking, because
Mm,
you will have a tragedy. But it
that
can
shit
also be
transfers.
it's very exciting. And as someone with a strong Aquarius in their chart, that feeling of being part of a group, part of a community, is
Hmm.
very profound. And I've done that. I don't know if I don't that might be obsolete, that kind of crowd. That might be obsolete. I mean, I always commuted into New York, 70s and the 80s, but it was so crowded on the street, you had to New Yorkers, and I miss it now because we have a lot of tourists. I mean, before the pandemic, and it's
Hmm.
different. You had to walk with a rhythm,
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
we all had to walk. We were like a school of fish, and you had to walk with a rhythm, and you could tell the New Yorkers because we walked with that rhythm, um, and
You
that's
were
how you
attached to
knew.
the current, right?
Right,
The current
right,
of the way you
right,
moved. I get that.
right,
Yes.
right, and so that's how you knew you were a New Yorker, when you found yourself in that rhythm. So, um, and there's something really beautiful about it. But that was then, And I think we are going to find new beautiful things in new beautiful ways, because this is a, maybe there will never be another pandemic like this. Maybe
I
this is right. I know. I mean, maybe this is something that we will put behind us, but it's going to take a long time for. There's a lot of scars, and it's going to
yes.
take a long time for us to trust. And so, in the meantime, we have to have fun. In the meantime, people need to meet each other and fall in love, and
Connections need to happen. We need to get
yeah,
out there.
we need to
Yes.
go out into the world and see how beautiful it is, and
Yeah.
so we can't all just hide in the bunker. Saying as someone who spends a lot of time but I was doing it before I'm not doing it because of the pandemic. This is just
This was my chosen life. I already chose this life. Yeah.
I wrote 4 encyclopedias like that, and I didn't write them by, like, taking time off to go to the mall. It just wasn't happening. So so, and I don't know if I wanna go to the mall anymore right now, but
Right?
but that doesn't mean I don't wanna go someplace. So, we're gonna it's gonna it's we are there is that curse, "May you live in interesting times," and I mean, a little bit, we are
Who
there.
who wished for that? Whose fault is this? Where are we going with this? Like, so
Who
okay,
was
I have
bored?
this
Who
crazy
was
theory.
bored?
Like there's there's definitely for a while for me there was a lot of I'm not the only one where the benefits, which I hate to say this about a pandemic where people are dying, it's a horrible time of fear and but there were benefits that definitely were answering people's prayers all over the place. I don't want to go to this job anymore.
I
Oh,
think this
turns out you don't have to. Like the amount of
yeah,
things that happened as a result that benefited
yeah.
me specifically in like what I was needing a break from, wishing would stop happening. Like the amount of times that I realized that this circumstances were benefiting things that I was asking for. I went through a serious couple of weeks where I'm like, did I did I do this? This is horrible. This is not what it meant. This is real monkey paw type
No,
shit.
no,
But
we haven't all had the same pandemic. I mean,
right.
I know people who had multiple deaths in a family. We all have something. I had a 99-year-old aunt who died in February, and normally before the pandemic, I used to go to, I used to go to see her like every two couple weeks. And and then none of her nieces and nephews wanted to be the one who gave her COVID. So you couldn't.
No.
Um, we all, but not everybody's tragedy was equal, and it was lucky for some people, and not because they were exploiting people. I'm not talking about people who bought up all the toilet paper and then price gouged, but even in a terrible situation. I mean, I think that's very astrological. We all have our charts. I was really annoyed. I was born in the year of the metal rat, 2020. That was supposed to be my year. I was looking forward to. It's going to be a lucky year. And then what did the metal rat bring? You know, Coronavirus and quarantines.
Goddamn rats again.
Ah, yes, I know. I am
I
one.
am also a rat, by the way.
Oh, me too. Oh, wow. Oh, that's funny.
That is funny.
But, oh, we have a lot in common. Um,
It's
yeah,
funny.
I was a little bitter in moments, but and we did, my family, I mean, we were ill, so I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but, in some ways, it was I had professional opportunities that I could not have done otherwise. Um, I wasn't really able to travel before because of the time involved and because of the way I work. And all of a sudden, I was able to teach Zoom classes that no one would have wanted before. you
I
know?
know, right?
Right,
I couldn't sell an online class to save my life before
right,
this.
right. I had done 2 online classes previously,
Ugh,
and, I mean, they were, you know,
fine, right? They were
well
okay.
basically because, I mean, one was because it was an international basically because the promoters couldn't spend the money you know, to have an in-person
Mhm,
class, and
mhm,
people, I think, felt people came, but it wasn't like they weren't excited. And now, Zoom classes are good. There's a lot of good things about them. And I mean, not there are wonderful things about in-person things, and they're not the same. And I miss things about the in-person, but the Zoom is good too in its way. So I I think it's going to be interesting to see where we go. What's gonna happen? I mean, imagine 150 years ago. I mean, lights, TV,
Toilets? What is that?
toilets, indoor plumbing, showers, indoors, laundries, washing machines. I'm a pretty low tech. I mean, I have a relatively low carbon footprint, not always by choice. I don't have a dishwasher. Um, I I have a dryer now, but I mean, I spent a lot of my life with only a washing machine and not a dryer. My parents are, from Central Europe, and they're like, "Oh, we don't need this central air."
What
I
is
don't.
this luxury? What
This
are
is
we,
not how we
bourgeois?
live.
What's this?
Right. So I mean, I, who knows what people will have in another 100 years. I mean, assuming we're still here as a species, but
That's fair.
that's the
That's
other
a
side.
fair that's a fair point. We don't know.
No, we don't know. We don't know. We're at
Steve
a crossroads here.
Steve Intermill, also a rat.
Oh wow! Hi, I'm
And
so happy to see you.
yeah, but he said hi to you earlier. I'm sorry I didn't put that up there. It was a while ago. I'm really good at ignoring comments because I just want to, I forget that they're, but you know,
Rats are the rats are wonderful people.
I want to. I also I want to take just 1 second to point
Yeah.
out something about comments. So like, um, I don't always see them when they're coming through, and a lot of times I do see them, but I don't want to interrupt my guest because you're the reason we're
You can
here, and
interrupt me.
I want to hear
Yeah,
you.
but I'm from New York, and you can interrupt me anytime.
But I'm from New Jersey, so I know I get that. Like, oh, can we have like three conversations at once? We're all,
Yes.
I'm good at that too. But I also want you guys to know that a lot of times I'll rewatch the show so that I can look at the comments and then comment. I will actually like
If
comment
you
on them
if you
later.
let me know, I'll answer them later.
Yeah, like you like I will I do I
Yeah,
do look at them eventually,
yeah.
because I love the comments, and luckily when people watch the show they get to see them scrolling through, so it is part of it later too, which is nice. It actually scrolls through like in real time as you watch it later,
Oh,
which
wow.
is neat. um I just want to throw that out there that I'm not ignoring you guys. I love you very much. I just sometimes I get really focused on the person that I'm here to talk to. So it happens. um what were we talking about? I was interrupting you when we were talking about that.
We were talking about what's exciting.
Yes, 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 yes.
I
Yeah.
I I you know, people's creativity is exciting. I
You
find.
made a comment earlier that you're never going to retire. There's a
Yeah.
there's a thing. My friend has a gallery in Franklinton, the Vandervalley Room, and in her bathroom there's a big sign that says "Creatives don't retire; they die making art."
Yeah, it's
Just
true.
keep going,
Yeah.
and I love it.
But I think that economic reality of when I was a child, of where, you know, you worked until you were on a 60, 65, and then you were kind of put out to pasture.
Hmm.
You were expected to go. And it's interesting because I think that still exists in some industries. I know people, who are only a little bit older than me, and they're making retirement plans. I mean, but that's not my reality. I don't,
I can't
I think it's.
imagine. I can't imagine. I don't want to not have a project I'm working
No,
on.
but
I'm
I think
really
it's
doing.
also it's also an economic reality that people who are independent and who work for themselves, you can't retire.
Uh, yeah.
So take good care of yourself because you can't retire. So it is much better if you can stay active and vital. And I think magic is a part of that. I
Mm,
think, you
mm.
know, contrary to what some may say, I think the practice of the magical arts, it's good for you. It keeps you younger. It keeps you alert. Um,
Yes.
it helps connect you to the different energies and different people. So it's all good. And even even if you're, everybody does it on their own scale and for their own needs. But it is, you know, I teach spell casting and people ask me sometimes, like, why are you teaching them? You should just, charge people. I don't want to charge people. Like everybody should do it for themselves. Even just to make yourself happy. Even just to go, I mean, it's Midsummer's Eve. Go outside and look at the moon. Um it's good for you. It's healthy for you.
Yes, it is. Uh, practicing magic, becoming a witch is one of the most
Yeah.
mentally healthy things I've ever done
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
life. Because I mean, to become a witch, you got to go through all of this shadow work. You got to figure out who you are. You have to ask yourself very hard questions,
Yeah.
and then you have to make changes based on those
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah.
Because that's when your magic gets good. Is
Yeah.
when you become
Right.
more in tune to who you actually are, understanding yourself, that kind of stuff. And so it's very hard at first. It's very hard to,
And when it doesn't work, or it doesn't work the way you want it to work, instead of throwing in the towel and going, ah, mom was right, this is all nonsense, it is figuring out why. Why did this not work the way? Maybe it actually did work the way I wanted, but I didn't know, or I'm in denial, or maybe I don't really, I'm working so hard for something, but maybe I don't really want it.
mhm.
Or or all this, I find the spells that don't work almost more interesting sometimes. I mean, the spells that work, great. Now, okay, that's good. You've saved yourself from that disaster or you've done whatever. But now, now we just move on. But the spells that don't work, there are the shadows, and that's super interesting.
Yeah, because you have to come to terms with the fact that
Yeah.
maybe you weren't in the right headspace. Maybe that's not what you actually wanted. Maybe you were actually uh, sabotaging someone, right?
Occasionally it's the universe telling you, "Are you sure you want this?
This is
Are you
not
sure
right
you
for
want
you. Yeah.
this?" I mean, I joke about this. It's a very extreme example. It's an example I give because people get it. But every time, like, they arrest someone and, you know, they're a serial killer, they got a wife, a sister, I mean, spouses choose in our country, in our culture, usually, most of us. We
Hmm.
choose them. You know, spoken as a divorced person, I chose that person. No one made me. Um, and someone thought they were lucky to get involved with that person. Someone thought their dream had come true. But maybe sometimes the universe is telling us, question, is is this actually, is what you're seeing? Take a closer look. Is this really what you want? Is this really what's good for you? I find with magical spells that if you keep doing it and you're persistent and you vary it and you really work at it, it will work. You have to be careful. People, that is not to give away the stuff from our class, but people will say, our magic spells dangerous, and yes, they might work. So just be sure you know what you're asking for.
Oh,
What if it does work? Now you're stuck.
this is the cautionary tale, right? This is
Yeah.
why don't do love spells. Don't do, don't it because of the whole you're not looking at the whole situation. So what you're asking for might not be what you want. And so if you get the thing you're asking for, it might backfire. It might be, you
I
know,
was told, I mean,
monkey's paw.
it's, for Mercury retrogrades, I was told one of the dangers of making a decision during a Mercury retrograde is that you have to assume that there is a piece of information that is missing. And if you had that piece of information, you might or might not make this same decision. So you sometimes you're desperate and you don't really have a choice, and that's a whole other story. But just you are making a decision that could be an important decision based on incomplete data. We don't even take out credit cards. Like, I'm not going to tell you what the interest is. Oh, that's okay. Give it to me. You know, um,
But I get this free thing if I do it. Oh yeah, let's go.
right.
Don't fill out credit applications during Mercury retrograde.
Well,
Shit, I seriously just did that.
I did too, but I didn't have a choice.
I'm applying to. I'm thinking about moving, and so I'm
Ah,
looking for like pre-approval type stuff. So
I have a
sure.
broken door. I have a broken door. And everything in the pandemic since it's like, last Mercury retrograde last year at this time, I lost a refrigerator that it was like in the pandemic. I didn't lose, it broke. Um, it, it.
Way to go.
Sometimes you think like back in the day, buying a refrigerator is no big deal. You went to the store, you bought a refrigerator, they delivered it. Now, you know, it's very hard. Everything is hard right now. So
Yeah.
it took like 2 months to get. I had a birthday with no refrigerator. Right now, it's okay. We're creative. We dealt, but
So many coolers. So many coolers.
but now I had a storm door. Storm doors.
Yeah.
Sometimes they break it during the storm. So
Wind catches that thing and is gone. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it has not been replaced yet. And yeah, I got a I went to store. I needed a door. They offered me credit. I said thank you. But that's not it. It's sometimes it's not. You have a choice. And sometimes you're just doing something impulsively. But with a retrograde, as with other things, there is that piece of information that you don't have, and maybe it would impact your decision.
Yeah. These uh these are the things that haunt me because as I
Yeah.
go to make the decision, I want to know, do I know everything? And Jean says it's 11:11. Make a wish, real quick. That's look at that. Thanks, Jean. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. What do I? It's really good.
Well,
Yep.
but and sometimes it's not in our control. I know a number of people who have I know because they consulted with me. They wanted to buy a house. They found the perfect house. This is the house they've been waiting for 30 years. This is their opportunity. It's a Mercury retrograde. Everybody tells them not to buy a house. Um, but this is the house. And
You can't not do it because of Mercury retrograde if it's the house.
exactly, except that after they bought the house and
No.
they paid the house, and in one case they were actually driving cross country to get to the house, they lost their jobs and they could no longer afford the house. So that
Motherfucker.
was a piece of information that perhaps did not exist quite yet. Did they know their boss was thinking of firing them? So that's everything. The house was perfect. It was the job. It was what was going to pay for the house that was the problem. But you have to roll with stuff like
So many factors,
yeah,
man. And
so many
when
factors.
when you're planning for a spell, it's like you can't try to cut off all of the loose ends. You
No,
just have to make it as direct as you can. Well, you should
clear.
probably,
You
yeah.
have to I think especially the language the
Yes.
more well, we're gonna save this.
I know. I was just
This
thinking the
is a
same thing. We need to
preview.
stop talking about spell casting right
We're
now.
gonna talk about this in August.
August 22nd,
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Eastern EEDT is
Same
what
bat channel.
yes. I really feel like I should let you go. It's 11:15, and
It's
it's
time for me
very
to go
late.
dance in the moonlight.
I know. I want you to go dance in the moonlight. I'm gonna go dance in the moonlight. I'm gonna go dance with my dogs who are dying to go dance in the moonlight.
They're gonna howl.
I want to thank you so much for being
Thank you.
here. I hope you come
We had
back.
fun.
Oh, one of the things I wanted to say really quick to you is that my daughter is going to Brooklyn. Like with her dad on a family trip in next month, and she's super excited. and I wrote down Greenwood Cemetery, but I'm
Yes,
also going to hit you up later for any, I
yes.
don't know, ideas that you think that she would
Greenwood
really enjoy.
Cemetery is amazing. It's a historical cemetery. So the graves, the tombs are incredible, and it's beautiful, and the weather should be nice. Yeah, hit me up. I'll tell you all kinds of
I
places to
will.
go.
I'm gonna bug you for some Brooklyn
And
stuff.
even if she's going to Brooklyn, they can go to Manhattan and Staten Island. Ride the Staten Island Ferry. It's free. It is a free ride. You know, I've done it. I take tourists there. Like I have family abroad. We go on the Staten Island Ferry. You
I
pass
love
the
it.
Statue of Liberty. It's a boat ride, and you know you land on Staten Island. I mean, I don't really know anything in Staten Island, so I walk through
Just
the
turn around and
terminal.
get right back on.
Yes, I literally I just I've never been past the terminal in Staten Island. But it's like a nice thing to do on a sunny day.
I'll tell her. I'll tell
Yeah.
her.
You know, I
Thank
mean, you could
you.
spend a lot of money in the Hudson Line, or you could just take the Staten Island Ferry.
I'll let her know. She's looking for the experience, man.
Yeah, there's
She's
tons
chasing
tons of
something.
interesting stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I hope you have a
Thank you.
wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Uh,
You too. Thank you,
Happy
everybody.
midsummer.
Thank you,
Yes.
everybody who is
Thank
here.
you, everybody, for watching. You guys have been
It was a
amazing.
pleasure.
It's been amazing. All right. I love you all. Have a
Bye.
great night.
Bye.
Bye.